The Word of God teaches us the Holy Ghost fell on the day of Pentecost. And the scripture says there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire. And it sat upon each of them. So I want to sing this today. Sit on me, Jesus. Like cloven tongues. Say it, sing. Sit on me, Jesus.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Um, this is your Brother Dunbar again with another episode of Exposing the Works of Darkness with Brother Dunbar. Excuse me one second. Excuse me, sorry. So this episode is um, immigration regulations, not just for the United States, but worldwide. And I kind of want to just do a little quick. Um, I want to show, obviously first this country's rules and how to be a citizen or how to migrate here. I also want to greet everybody. Peace and blessings, Sister Don B. Peace and blessings, Mother Shelley. Shelley's house. Thank you for joining. Um, so I kind of want to show so we can all, because we all hear um, this narrative on how wicked and evil the immigration laws are for the United States, how they're portrayed in a way. But I kind of want to give a a broader scope to other countries and their regulations and what you have to do to become a citizen, because your goal when you migrate to a place is to, I would imagine, become a citizen there, or to uh, you know embrace that country per se. Maybe not everything about it, because we all know there's some things that are just absolutely awful for each country. Um, this country included, clearly. But I want to compare the two. I want to compare multiple different countries, and we're going to get a wide range of countries. And then I have a little video of one for a gentleman who um, does it for Japan. So I want to show. I want him to explain after we kind of just go through a uh, brief conversation on this, and feel free to obviously leave your comments and your thoughts on what we're seeing here. But so what we're going to do um, is we are going to first start off with the United States, right? Because this is the country that most of us that come on this platform live in. So this, I gotta probably make that a little bigger so you guys can see. Bear with me. Um, there we go. It's probably better. I don't know if that's really. There we go. That's probably a lot better. Okay. Uh, yeah, that's a fun. A lot of them stayed there as well, sister Mother Shelley. A lot of them stayed. This is a very good point. Mother Shelley says when the Vietnam War was going on, a lot of Americans migrated to Canada. Yeah, a lot of them stayed in Vietnam or Thailand or Cambodia or areas of Southeast Asia. Um, but let's get to this here. It says U.S. immigration law is based on the following principles: the reunification of families, admitting immigrants with skills that are valuable to the U.S. economy, humanitarian protections, and promoting diversity. Now, this word here is a very tricky word when they use it, because diversity. You hear a lot of diversity and inclusion. Diversity and inclusion. We need to make things more diverse. We need to diversify this, and depending how you're using that word, it can be good and or bad, right? This fact sheet provides basic information about how the U.S. legal immigration system is designed and functions. So it says here, oops, sorry, the law, um, the law governing U.S. immigration policy is called the Immigration and Nationality Act (INA). The INA allows the United States to grant up to 675,000 permanent immigrant visas each year across various visa categories. So there's a threshold here, right? So if there's a threshold, that means there's a threshold for a reason, right? It's like when you have a job or a business, you can only support a certain amount at any certain given time, right? There's a certain threshold, a certain number of employees that you can employ. Why? Because you aren't capable of employing all of those employees, everybody under the sun. You're only capable for a certain amount. So the United States, they come up and they try to give a number of ones that they believe that they can support, right? Or aid or, things of that nature. So there is only a certain amount that one country can do. Now, the problem that I see that the United States citizens typically do is they typically say, oh, well, they should let this person in because this. Well, did you ever stop to look at how or what is going on already with the immigration system? Is it's already at its capacity? Did this person not qualify? Did they not follow the proper channels? There's lots of different things. Right, we got to slow down when we look at every case and say that the country is just anti-immigrant. Right, we have to slow down on that speech because that's kind of crazy. Certain situations for certain, it's this for a reason, right? The 675,000, whatever reason, I don't know personally, so I'm not going to comment on it. Could be due to, um, you know, helping, being able to help them. I mean, every situation is different, right? On top of those 675,000 visas, the INA sets no limit on an annual admission of U.S. citizens, spouses, parents, and children under the age of 21. In addition, each year, the president is required to consult with Congress and set an annual number of refugees. So that's just ones that are coming with visas, that are getting their visa, that are getting their citizenship, right? To be admitted to the United States through the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program. Finally, humanitarian protections such as asylum seekers, we even know about asylum seekers, temporary protected status, and other programs which may permit. Now, this here, everybody who says that they're seeking asylum, everyone who says they're seeking asylum is not truly seeking asylum. Let's be real. Let's be straight up honest. And if you think that everybody who says they're seeking asylum is in danger, you're sorely mistaken. So, what happens when you have, let's flip the coin, right? We know, yes, let the people who need the asylum to come with their protection. Fine. Great. Wonderful. Not a problem. Let's flip the coin on the ones who manipulate it and use that and get in, and they're not secretly in danger. Is that right for the ones that may be seeking asylum that didn't get it because that one person, those few or whoever many were using it the wrong way? Now they can't get in. Is that right for them? Do we ever stop and think about that? The process in itself is there for a reason. And if one does it against the law and then lies and forges on whatever they are coming here for asylum, you've taken it away from somebody who needs asylum and then thus they could have, God forbid, lose their life or be kidnapped or whatever the case may be. That person, because of their lying and not desiring to do it the way they're supposed to, has cheated the system, thus taken from somebody who could have used it. Yep, that's right. 10,000. You are absolutely right. I knew one person who did that. I worked with a person. Mother Shelley makes a very good point. I knew people that got paid $10,000 to marry someone for citizenship. I know a person who did that to a woman from believe it was Bolivia. He was Puerto Rican, and he married a woman for $10,000. She was from Bolivia, so she got instant citizenship. What does that say about that? What do we ever talk about those things there when we're talking about the immigration? No, if you ever notice, the news hyper focuses on one area only. They never focus on the broad scope of it. They never focus on everything that's going on. They just focus and they paint a narrative. This is why I don't watch the news. This is why I don't listen to that propaganda. It's all nonsense. I don't care if you're talking Fox, CNN, MSNBC. They're all propaganda machines that force a narrative to make people think a certain way. And all who watch them and say, oh, they're dummies. You're a bunch of dummies. And you're getting fed propaganda. The laws are there. Do your research and look at the laws. If some people aren't getting in, let's talk about those who come in and, like I said, use the system and then make it worse for people who live here and people who are trying to come in. Nobody ever thinks about that part about it. They only think about, well, they should have automatically let them in. They're racist. No. Did they do it the way it was designed? It was designed that way for a reason. If you come somewhere illegally, you have broken the law. If you come in legally, you're more than welcome. You come in and contribute like the rest of us, and you have the right to make a better life for yourself and for your family, by all means. But don't come in trying to do it illegally or manipulatively. You manipulate the. Let's be real. So I kind of want to get down to temporary protection. We've got all these things that the United States is and other programs which may permit someone to reside in the United States legally do not have numerical caps, but do have other restrictions. So there's restrictions for a reason. There's rules for a reason. Once a person is granted an immigration visa or receives certain other eligibility protections, such as asylum or refugee status, they can apply to become a lawful permanent resident. And so right away, I want you to remember that, because we're going to see some things. They can lawfully, for asylum and refugees, they can right away apply for permanent residency. So they don't have to go back. And they can come and they can stay, and they have fled successfully whatever horrific things they may face where they came from. Individuals arriving on immigrant visas become, I gotta scroll down a little bit, these LPRs when they arrive in the United States. After residing in the United States for 5 years or 3 years in some circumstances, LPRs are eligible to apply for U.S. citizenship. There is no requirement that an LPR apply for Finnish citizenship. You're not required to. You're eligible to apply for nearly all jobs, i.e., jobs not legitimately restricted to U.S. citizens. I want you to focus on that as well. Jobs for U.S. citizens, right? That's another point, because there's something that sticks out in a lot of other countries that you're going to see. And if you say that the United States is racist, well, hold that thought. And are permanent to remain in the country permanently while still remaining subject to immigration laws. So, another important part here, there are rules, right? They've made it a way for ones who need it to come in. Each year, the United States also admits a variety of non-citizens on a temporary basis. Such non-immigrant visas are granted to everyone from tourists to foreign students to temporary workers permitted to remain in the country for varying lengths of time, while certain employment-based non-immigrant visas are subject to annual caps. So the country has emphasized tourists, foreign students, temporary workers, right? So we've gotten a wide range of different type of categories here. but these have annual caps, whereas asylum seekers don't have a cap. So when word gets back to these countries, oh, just be an asylum seeker. Well, that's your way in, so you don't have to follow the process. So now you have them taking advantage of someone's kindness. And what do you do when somebody takes advantage of somebody's kindness? You keep allowing them to take advantage of your kindness. Even Pastor Jennings has preached on it. You don't let somebody take advantage of you. Don't be stupid. So why is it different for a country to? Why do they have a? Why does the United States have a different rule, and they're looked at because they're not allowing people to take advantage of them? What don't people understand? There are people that are taking advantage of that asylum seeking law, that asylum seeking avenue, because it's a speedier process. They don't have as much restriction. There's no cap on it, so they won't have to wait. So everybody's claiming they're asylum seeker. Yes, sis, the mother Shelley, a lot of people are moving there in Colombia. Mother Shelley said, I heard people saying they were moving to Thailand because the cost of living was very cheap and it was nice there. I actually did a little research on they're called expats. You can find YouTube videos. There's you get your good and your bad ones. But there's Colombia. Colombia is another country that people from the United States and other countries, Europe, like the UK and other areas are moving to these places because it is more affordable. And what I gather is they're more kind and they're more the living is more like the way it was originally here, where it was more relaxed. You go back to like 1950s or earlier, or maybe even the 60s, where you worked a 9 to 5, you were all right, but it stopped there. I am not anti-immigration, Daiwanda Renee. I am anti-abuse of immigration laws and taking advantage of the people in this country. I am all for people coming, making a better life for themselves. I'm focusing on the part that nobody wants to focus on when you look at the news. It's the other side of the coin. We've all heard the narrative, so this is why I want to show the actual laws, and then I'm going to show other laws for other countries, and you're going to see a great difference, and not in a good way. So beware, it's not going to be a very good one for the other countries because their immigration laws are far stricter and would be categorized, if you want to use it the same way you use the United States, racist. But I don't think they're racist, but I'm using that just because that's the narrative that's thrown around, that everybody who says that people who come here illegally are racist or painted as racist people. That's a false narrative, and that's a very foolish thought. I'm one that believes in doing it the right way, and that's why I'm going through and kind of just throwing out. Think about it. Have you thought about it this way? Have you thought about that? Right. So they have no So here it says, while certain employment-based non-immigrant visas are subject to annual caps, other non-immigrant visas, including tourist and student visas, have no numerical limits. So students who are coming here for students, there's no cap on it. Tourism, there's no cap on it, right? Because not only are we looking out for those people, but we also have to look out for the United States. Because even when you look at it, you make it more simple to think about. But that's a very good question. I'm going to put it up there. She says, so are you anti-immigration? Absolutely not anti-immigration. I am anti-illegal immigration. I am take advantage of the system and make the United States people poorer. That is what I'm anti-against. Because when you have these, we'll get into it a little later, but there's reasons why I am the way I am on that. Right. But I want to go back to, so if you take your family, for instance, you want to help people, but you're not going to put your family at risk to help somebody. You're not going to financially put your family at risk to help somebody. You're not going to, for safety reasons, put your family at risk. That doesn't make you a racist. That doesn't make you hateful. That doesn't make you evil. It just means you're looking out for your family and which you have to look out for. That's how the United States government is supposed to deal with immigration. If it's going to harm its citizens, it should be looking out for its citizens first. Yes, they want to help lots of people. Yes, they want to help people get better and have a better life and do all those things, but you have to be within reason. You have to be within reason. People are way outside and they always put out, well, these asylum seekers. We're not talking about asylum seekers. We're talking about people doing it illegally. That's why it's illegal immigration. And there's rules just and regulations for immigration. And there's consequences for breaking the rules and regulations of immigration. And you'll see that all these other countries have the same thing for theirs. But I want to get to, I kind of want to get to, was a certain section that I wanted to get to. So all these things, right? Permanent immigration. Let's go to permanent immigration, which would be so. I gotta figure out how to get rid of this thing here because it's quite annoying because it's hard to read. So the overall numerical limit for permanent employment-based immigrants is 140,000 per year. That cap is there for a reason. You can't overwhelm the system, then the system breaks. You can't overwhelm your financial, you just can't do it, right? This number includes the immigrants plus their eligible spouses and minor unmarried children, meaning the actual number of employment-based immigrants is less than 140,000 each year. That's the total number. Any unused family preference immigrant numbers from the preceding year, this is from the American Immigration Council, that's what this website is, are added to this cap to establish the number of visas that are available for allocation through the employment-based system. See that there, the employment-based system. The total number of available visas is then divided into 5 preference categories. For some categories, the sponsoring employer must first test the U.S. labor market under terms and conditions established by the Department of Labor. So, employment-based, labor, these two have to come together. And the Secretary of Labor must certify that the petitioner's application meets certain requirements before the sponsor may file a petition with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. These are checks and balances for a reason, because if you don't have checks and balances, you have chaos. For some categories, the sponsor's first step is to file a petition with USCIS, or the foreign national may self-petition. The final step is the foreign national's application for an immigrant visa at a U.S. embassy or consul abroad, or an application to adjust status to LPR if in lawful status in the United States. For counseling processing, the immigrant visa application cannot be filed until after USCIS approves the immigrant petition. For adjustment of status, the time to file the application depends on whether a visa number is considered to be immediately available. All right, so I want to kind of get to there's all kinds of different ways, right? So, and then we all know so here's a valid point. Mother Shelley, I have been trying to move and can't get a place under my income because they are giving them to immigrants first, which I don't think is right. So here's someone who has paid taxes all of her life, who has paid into the system, and she's being rejected because of people who haven't. That's like kicking your son out to bring in a stranger. Does that make sense? It doesn't. It makes no sense. Yes, you feel for the stranger. You sympathize with the stranger, but there's only so much you can do. This is what I really there's only so much one country can do. There's only so much. It is making a burden on our living. So, how are you speaking with me, or are you speaking with Mother Shelley at Dewanda Renee? Just a question. I just want to make sure I don't answer it if it wasn't meant for me. So you have to take all of these situations into consideration and not just put it on a blanket. Everybody is in this category, because then you're generalizing, and we all know what generalizing does. We've seen a lot of generalizing, and people got upset when you generalized, right? Okay. So now I want to flip it to I want to go here, and we're going to go south of the border. We're going to go to Mexico. We're going to see what Mexico's rules and regulations for immigration is. And I want you to tell me, is this correct or is this wrong? And if so, why? So, Mexico has this is from Mex Law. So this is a law firm for Mexico. So they deal with immigration in Mexico. Mexico has a complete legal policy on immigration, which is primarily regulated by the Migration Act and the General Population Act, among other laws affected both Mexicans and foreigners. In this newsletter, we will focus on explaining the different methods by which foreigners wishing to visit, either for tourism, business, retirement, work, study, or for those seeking permanent residency in Mexico or Mexican citizenship. Firstly, we look into the classification of a foreigner in Mexico. So here's Mexico automatically has, you're seeing it here, a classification. There's certain categories. We got the certain categories in the United States. Workers. We got workers. We got asylum seekers. We got students. We got. I listen. If an immigrant is working and they're contributing, I got no problem, because let me tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. I've worked with a lot. One of my good friends was from Guatemala. He didn't really speak too much English, but he was a hard worker and a good guy. And I actually helped him get a better position because they were taking advantage of him because he didn't speak English. So I'm firmly with, if they're going to work, hey, by all means, you are more than welcome to work, because I've worked with Brazilians, hard workers. I've worked with a man from Nigeria. I've worked with Jamaicans. I've worked with all different types. And these were immigrants. These were ones that came over. These weren't ones that were born here. And I've worked with people from Bolivia, people from all down South America, all across, Mexicans. I've worked with them all who are from over there. And I agree. I'm not painting a narrative that all are. I'm focusing on the rules and regulations and why they're there and what you need to know and why you need to know it. And I'm comparing our U.S. Rules and regulations, which actually favor immigrants very much. And you're going to see that this country's laws favor immigrants more than any country under the sun. And you're going to see that right here in writing. Greetings, Brother Ham. Peace and blessings, brother. Thank you for joining.
Yeah. Hey, God bless. And God bless everybody in the chat. So I was reading Dewanda Renee.
Yeah.
The problem with not saying immigrant, because I was reading the question. with well, it wasn't a question. More of a statement. When using the word immigrant, we have to separate the two. Number one being is America has a classification, and then other countries have their classifications. So, when you're an immigrant and not like if you're a natural born, you're not an immigrant. It doesn't matter what country you came from. If you're born in America, you're not an immigrant. I say that to say this. It's the same thing that I say this all the time, and Brother Jeremy heard me say this before. You're either black, white, or brown in this country. Those are your classifications. After that, you're an American citizen. As a Christian, you're a pilgrim. Now, with those things being said, an immigrant is an actual immigrant. So their status is based on whether or not they break a law and get deported. Their status is if they overstay a visa, or the becoming a citizen to become an American citizen. And if your classification for you as a person in general, if a person from Uganda or South Africa or Italy or Russia says, well, I'm Russian, or I'm Ugandan, or I'm South African. If you say that you're that first, you're an immigrant. But if you say you're an American citizen and I'm Russian, that's different. See, people tend to make classifications and not understand what they're saying. When you say that, when I say that I'm if I say that I'm an African American, I'm a fool, an actual absolute fool. Especially when a person that wasn't African came up with the term, which was Jesse Jackson. That's where African American came from. So I say that to say this: an American citizen, doesn't matter what color you are or anything like that, that's what you are. Now, you come from another country, I don't care what country you come from, once you come to America, you're an American. Simple as that. You don't have to like what they do or agree with their laws or the way that they treat people and stuff like that, but you came here and wanted to be a citizen of the United States. I was born here, so I can say that I was born American. If you're somebody that comes from another country and you become a American citizen, when your child is born here, they're not that nationality. They're American, regardless of whether you accept it or not. The problem is, if I decide to go to Sweden or China or Africa, in any parts of Africa, I'll just say Nigeria as an example, or if I go to England, or if I go to any other country in America, right, and I become a citizen there, when my child's born there, they're considered that nationality. Not because the color of my skin or anything like that, because of the country.
Correct.
The problem is people tend to forget these little technical things that happen. Like me, that's the reason why I don't go back and forth with people about stuff like that. When I literally mean when I say either you're black, brown, or white, I literally mean that, because that's the color of people in the whole world: black, brown, or white. That's it. Those are colors. Now, your nationality is something different. So, that's just me addressing that point. So
no, that's good. That's good, Brother Ham. That's a valid point, and that's why having this conversation and focusing on the language that's being spoken in these laws, these rules, these regulations. And I said earlier, Brother Ham, that these regulations are put there for a reason.
It is.
They're not put there to be racist. So when some person, and I broke it down like this, I said, so when you have asylum seekers that come and they really need the asylum and they get it, and then you have ones that are now using that asylum, they're taking away from.
Brother Jeremy.
What happened?
No, I said, can I say something about what you just said?
Well, let me just finish this real quick.
Okay. You just made me think about something when you were going. Okay, sorry about that.
So when those people use that asylum seeker when they should be using the other avenue, they've taken away from somebody who truly needs asylum. And when you take away from somebody who truly needs asylum, God forbid that person is no longer with us or kidnapped, right?
Mm-hmm.
People don't think about that. They only think about what's forced in the news and the media and the propaganda machine. How is that right for that person that can't get asylum because you've taken it?
Yeah.
So, you know, and how many people in the United States are being hurt by people who are claiming asylum and they're really not, because they're not coming here to work. They're coming here for alternative motives. Nobody talks about those people. And when you talk about those people, automatically you're either anti-immigrant or a racist. And or both. We need to separate the two. There's legal immigrants and then there's illegal immigrants. And then everything is, well, this country was stolen. Okay, we're going to go back 400 or 500 years. Okay, let's go through the world. If you want to go down that route, let's go down to all the border shifts that you have now, because there's been a country that overtook another country to steal land. So if you want to go down that route, every country under the sun has done that. Mongolia advanced and took over. Mongolia used to be all of China, North Korea, South Korea, the Southeast Asia. Mongolia used to be the whole thing. They conquered places. So you have that all across the globe. When we start doing that, then we start taking away. We're not tackling the problem at hand. We're diverting away from the problem because it's uncomfortable and because we don't like the answer. That's always what happens when somebody throws out, oh, well, this country was okay. Yes, this country, Europeans came over. The Spaniards came over, and it was the South towards the west, and the Northern Europeans went over to the Northeast and then spread down. Yes, we know that. But as it stands right now, United States citizens are all within those borders. And if you cross that border, there's laws and rules you have to follow. Just like if you cross over to Mexico, there's rules and laws you have to follow. Whether you, like Brother Ham said, whether you agree with it or not, those are the rules of the land. You got to obey them. You have to have the certain criteria for those other countries.
You can always go back to where you felt more comfortable.
So, but I want to kind of get into this Mexican before we get, because this is the Mexican. This is from a law firm, a Mexican law firm. So it says it's focusing on permanent residency in Mexico or Mexican citizenship, right? And the categories is either for tourism, business, retirement, work, study, or for those seeking permanent residency in Mexico or Mexican citizenship. So these are all the same things that people come to the United States for. These are the same categories the United States broke down. Firstly, we look into the classifications of a foreigner in Mexico. Okay? The first one, a non-immigrant. This is a person who, with the permission from the Ministry of the Interior, enters a country temporarily either as a tourist, transmigrant, visitor, religious minister, political asylum, refugee, student, correspondent. So these are all things that the United States categorizes. Immigrant. This is a person who is legally in the country with the purpose of settling there. Immigrant is one who has they want to settle in that country. They want to live in that country. They don't want to leave and will become a migrant. And an investor. Look at this. This is an investor. What is an investor? One who puts money into the country, invests in the country. And when a certain individual says we want people here that are going to invest in the country, automatically he's a racist. A professional. A professional is one who has a career. These are immigrants. A person in a trustworthy work position. A scientist, a technician, family members, an artist, an athlete, a freelancer. So here they are. These are all immigrants. These are what they categorize as immigrants. These are the people in the categories. Migrant. This is a person who acquires the rights of permanent residency in the country. The type of permit, visa assigned and granted by the Ministry of the Interior depends on the reasons for which the foreigner seeks to enter and remain in the country, which include the following. Wait, it goes based upon why they want to be there. Doesn't the United States do the same thing? Yes, they do. A visitor visa without permission to participate in income generating activities. A visitor can't make money in that country. It allows the foreigner to remain in the country for no more than 180 days, like Brother Ham was talking about. There's a time limit. When you've extended that visa longer than you're supposed to stay, you have thus broken the law. Consecutive days from the date of admission, the visa is automatically granted to tourists entering the country. Same with the United States. Tourists automatically are welcomed in, no questions asked. Visitor visa with permission to participate in income generating activities. This authorizes the foreigner to remain in the country for no more than 100 days, consecutive days from the date of admission. Same thing for ones who want to work. Visitor visa for adoption proceedings. Look at all these categories. This authorizes the foreigner who is following an adoption process in Mexico to remain in the country until the time in which the adoption proceedings have been resolved. The adoptee is registered in the civil registry, as well as receiving a passport, and all the necessary paperwork has been issued, which guarantees that the adoptee is able to leave the country. Temporary resident visa. This authorizes the foreigner to remain in the country for a period not exceeding 4 years. The applicant is entitled to carry out specific activities either for profit or nonprofit, depending on the classification of the visa. The foreigner must also prove that they have sufficient funds to stay in the country and or have a steady income. So that right there, ready? Did you just hear that? They have to provide what? They must prove that they have sufficient funds to stay in the country and or have a steady income. They won't let you stay if you don't. This is Mexico. Temporary resident student visa. This authorizes the foreigner to remain in the country for the duration of the academic course they have attested they will be completing in an educational institute that is within the national education system. Permanent residency visa. This authorizes the foreigner to remain indefinitely in the country. The visa will be granted when the applicant fulfills any of the following circumstances: political asylum, the right to preserve the family unit, pensioners who receive a pension from a foreign government and which allows them to live in the country. 4 years have passed since the foreigner has had a temporary resident visa. 2 years if they are legally married to a Mexican spouse or the spouse has permanent residency. When the foreigner's children were born in Mexico and were nationalized at birth for being the lineal descendant to the second degree of a Mexican by birth and by decision of the National Migration Institute. So there's rules to Mexico. There's rules to Mexico and their immigration, migration, and asylum. There's rules. But Mexico's not racist. Mexico's not anti-immigrant. This is what the propaganda machine doesn't want you to see. They don't want you to hear. They don't want you to hear it because they want to force the narratives to have you divided. That's an easy tactic for division. Instead of looking at the circumstance and the individual, they want you to broad scope everybody because they say we don't believe in illegal immigration. Automatically racist. Automatically anti-immigrant. Automatically. That's the narrative they want you to throw on somebody instead of listening to why they don't believe in illegal immigration. Brother Ham, do you have anything to add to that? No? All right. So that's Mexico.
No, hey, I'm listening. I'm listening right now, brother Jeremy.
Okay.
I'm actually cleaning my drive in at the same time.
All
So
right,
I'm
man.
listening though. Yeah.
So those are the rules for Mexico. Okay, so visitors except those who are in the country for humanitarian reasons and who have links with a Mexican or a foreigner with permanent residency in Mexico will not be able to change the conditions of their stay and will have to leave the country once they have completed their full period of authorized residency. So, what are they? Temporary and permanent residents have a period of 30 calendar days from the date of the admission into the national territory in which to negotiate with the Institute for the corresponding residency card, which will then remain in effect for the designated time period of stay. With this card, that's why they ask you, how long do you plan on staying in Mexico? How long do you plan on staying in the United States? It's to identify what you are looking to do so they know where to put you and who to bring you to. The regular migration status in the national territory will be authorized while it is in effect. Additionally, the foreigner will have certain obligations, such as register with the National Register of Foreigners, notify the National Migration Institute any changes in their immigration status, such as marital status, national home, address, place of work, within 90 days of any such change. You can apply for your visa in person or hire a representative for advice who can apply on your behalf and do all the paperwork. Isn't that what the United States does? That's the same exact thing. Once again, does this make Mexico racist? Does this make Mexico anti-immigrant? No. They just have rules for their reason, and whatever their reason is their reason. Wait till you hear the video on Japan. It's going to blow your mind.
Yeah. I agree with you.
I
agree about what you just said too.
Yeah.
Because they do the same thing. Actually, they're worse with their laws than what they talk about the United States. You know what I would love to see these protesters that's protesting ICE? I would love to see them go to these other countries and do it. Because they get ran over by cars. They get ran over by cars, shot, everything.
Yep.
So I'd love to see them go do it over there.
But that's the point why, and I spoke to you about this, Brother Ham. This is the point that I want to make known so people can see. That's why I have worldwide, not just United States. Because when you hyper-focus, you neglect all the other things that other countries are doing the exact same. And then you know what this can do is make you more appreciative of the situation that God has put you in. You're in a country for immigrants that are more welcome than other countries by their laws, that's just what it is. Now, that's a whole nother topic on how when you give people money from the government that don't work, that's a whole nother topic on how it strains the U.S. economy, the healthcare system, and all that other stuff. That actually puts a strain on it, on the United States people, which is a whole nother topic that I'm not just going to go down. I just want to focus on the legality of different countries and their rules and regulations. And I wanted to compare them to the United States rules and regulations. So now, and Sister Shelley, thank you. Glory to God. I appreciate it. This is what I enjoy doing, is giving information and letting you come up with your own thoughts on it. I just want you to have an opportunity to see it. That's all it's about. And if you disagree, I still love you anyways. It doesn't matter. So let's go to, is this the next one I want to go? This is the Dominican Republic. Okay. Let me know if you guys can see that clearly. It might be a little too far away. So this is So this is for the Dominican Republic. Okay. Right here.
I can see it.
Citizenship. You can see it good?
Yeah.
Okay. The rights of citizenship are only bestowed upon a Dominican national who has reached the age of 18. The rights of citizenship is only given, bestowed means given, upon a Dominican national. You can't be a citizen in the Dominican Republic if you're not born there, who has reached the age of 18 or who is married or has been married before the age of 18. Article 21 of the Constitution. Thus, although a minor can be a Dominican national, the minor will not have citizenship rights unless married. So even if they were born there, they don't even have the rights of citizenship. Citizenship entitles the person to the right to vote, run for public office. So they can't even vote. You can't even vote in the Dominican Republic. Vote on referendums, make requests of public interest to policymakers. You can't even go to your local government. You don't have a say in the Dominican Republic. And report public officials' misconduct in the performance of their duty. You can't even go and say, hey, this guy's, doing something. You can't even go. Article 22 of the Constitution. However, citizenship will be revoked for conviction in assisting or participating in deliberating attacks or harm against the interests of the Dominican Republic. You can get your citizenship revoked, including treason, espionage, conspiracy, or taking up arms against the Republic. If you fight against your government, your citizenship is revoked. Article 23 of the Constitution. In addition, citizenship will be suspended for the duration of a sentence for a felony conviction, a legally declared incompetency, acceptance, if you're incompetent, acceptance to a position with a foreign state within the Dominican Republic not authorized by the executive branch, and a violation of any of the conditions of naturalization, Article 24 of the Constitution. Peace and blessings, Brother Nia Maxwell. Thank you for joining. That's the Dominican Republic. You can't even be a citizen unless you were born there. And you can get your citizenship revoked for breaking those laws. That means deportation, my friend. So, go back to what we saw. The United States and Mexico. Even Mexico is more friendly than the Dominican Republic to non-foreigners. You're welcome as a tourist. You're welcome to spend money there. You're welcome to visit people who live there, but you're not good enough.
You just get to be a second-class citizen.
You're not good enough to be a citizen. You can't have citizenship, and you can't vote. You can't do nothing. Would that be racist? No, that's their law. That's the way they want their country. It doesn't mean they hate white people or they hate African people. It just that's the way they run their country. That's their law. It doesn't make them racist. It doesn't make them anti-immigrant. It just means this is the way they want to run their country, and that's their rules. That's their rules. I mean, what can you say? So when you come over to the United States and when you hear the propaganda machine spitting out nonsense, think about this right here. Just think. You can't even be a citizen. You can't vote. You got no say. You can't even go when somebody's mistreating you and if they're of that. You can't even go there. Here you have the right to. Here you can challenge your government. You can openly protest your government if they get out of line. You can go and ask and have them taken from their position because of their incompetency. You can't do that in the Dominican Republic. Not unless you're a citizen. So if you go over there and live there and you ain't a citizen, well, it's your fair game. You're an easy target. Just pick on the guy who's not a citizen, and you're golden. What do you got to say about that, Brother Ham? You have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all you can be is be a second-class citizen. Here's the problem: most of the time, they get their influences and their understanding from watching American news and not reading the laws of the. You know what's weird, right? How is it you're from Nigeria? You're from these other countries, Honduras and Mexico and so forth and so on, but you're protesting in the country that you're trying to get citizenship in. I would like to understand that like that's an oxymoron to me.
It is an oxymoron. You're right.
You know, so I say that to say this, right? You know, if you want to, you can't do that in your country, but you come here and do that. You know, and here's the thing: I don't have a problem with whatever nationality a person is. I don't.
Correct. Correct.
It makes no difference to me. My problem is when you start to complain about the laws in the country that I live in, that you live in. Now I got a problem, and it falls on deaf ears for me. You can't complain to me about the government when there's laws that tell you that you broke the law to get here. Here's my issue that I have, right? I'm noticing these people that's getting caught in these ICE raids and stuff like that, and they're called different. Like they think America is bad with the people when it comes to people with expired visa or immigration. Try the UK, try Africa, try Russia, try that and see if they'll still be saying that. But what I was going to say is this, right? My issue that I have, and it doesn't matter what nationality that you are, right? You spend 30 years over here after you cross the border illegally, so you automatically broke the law. But you spend 30 years, 10 years, 7 years, and not trying to get your citizenship. Here's the thing: there's a lot of people that get their citizenship because because they don't give up in getting it. But some people give up, and then when they get caught, they want to cry and complain. Something, you know what? If it was given to you easy, you wouldn't appreciate it.
Correct.
It's just that simple.
Correct.
If God gave you, if God gave you everything that you asked for, you wouldn't appreciate it.
I agree.
But if you have to seek Him for it, then you appreciate it when you get it, and you're thankful of it.
That's right.
So I have to look at it like that, right? Listen, I understand. They got some dumb laws in America, stupid laws.
Correct.
But you chose to come where those stupid laws were at. So you have to adhere to them. Just like me, right? I have to adhere to those laws because I live here in America. Doesn't matter what state, whatever it may be. It may be a dumb law. Look, I may not agree with the laws where you stay at, right? And you may not agree with the laws where I stay at. But at the end of the day, you live in this country, you have to respect them. Because the Bible says the law is for the lawless. If you become a lawless person, you can't call yourself a Christian. And that's the problem. So you have to adhere to the laws. The problem is these people got every excuse in the world except for doing the right thing. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm going to get to that. I do.
And I was going to say, look, Jago, and I was, and Brother Jeremy, I was going to say this, right? I was going to say this. Why are you protesting in this country? Go and protest in the country that you came from and make them do something about the United States, which the United States is not going to do nothing about it because they don't care. You know, at the end of the day, if you don't like the country, don't come here.
Correct.
That's all I can say. And listen, I don't care what nationality you are. If you don't like the country, don't come here.
Correct. So Shelly's house says, I thought once you become a registered voter, that was it. But why are they sending out forms asking you to register now? They do that because you may be registered voter in a different town or a different state, and you have to register again.
County.
Correct, or different counties. So they need to get the accurate numbers for the county, and they just got to make sure that you're still residing. Or
So
if
this
you
is their way of
change.
getting ready for the census. I'll just be honest. That's what it
Correct.
is. It's
Correct.
their way. It's their way of getting ready for the census, and I say that because once they get the registered voter, then they do, because the census is every 10 years, and we're coming up on what, another 10 years?
Yeah.
2015. It should have been this year, right?
I think so.
I don't know. It may be 2030. You know, it might be 2030. It's probably. I could be wrong. I'm just gonna say 2030.
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think that's probably it. I could very well be wrong. So don't quote me on it. I could very well be wrong, but I do believe 2030 they'll do another census. I'm trying to remember when the last time they did.
So that's the answer. That's the answer to that question, Mother Shelley. I hope that helped you out. And peace and blessings unto Uso Drago. Thank you for tuning in. He says, complaining about laws in America and not even a legal citizen is wild. Get out of here. He's right. He's right.
And that's the same thing I just said. You don't like the laws, don't come here.
Go back to what we just read about the Dominican Republic.
Hey, Jeremy, it's kind of off subject, brother Jeremy.
What's up?
I just made cranberry grape juice today, brother.
I knew you were gonna come with the juice.
Hey, and I got the 16-ounce bottles today too.
Oh, wonderful, brother. Wonderful.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say on that.
No, yeah, you cool. So shout out to Brother Ham and his juicing. We coming to a refrigerator near you. Make sure you support our brother when he finally gets that launched. Feel free, Brother Ham, to let the people know while you're talking about that. I want you to have an opportunity to let them know what you're gonna do. You know what you're gonna have.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do regular juices because I realized something. Some juices, some fruit have natural juices, natural sugars, and all you have to do is add a certain amount of water to them. But I also have a beet juice that's good that I finally got together. It's good for no. Well, you know what? I'm gonna get to that, Sister Shelley. It's just Brother Jeremy will tell you this juicing been keeping me busy.
Yeah, it has. He's got some good ideas, so I wanted to share what he's gonna do, so you guys can be ready and prepared to help support Brother Hammond as well as your health.
Yeah, so the beet juice, my blood pressure was 160 over 136 for a long time, and that was after I stopped smoking and drinking, and I came to the truth, and that was after I stopped doing everything. So I started juicing probably about 2 months ago with this beet juice is what I was really testing out to see if it worked like everybody said it would. But the problem is people think just doing, I don't want to go into all the other stuff like that. But anyway, the beet juice dropped my blood pressure down to 130 over 90, and sometimes it's 120 over 80 or 115 over 71. So it actually aids in with your blood pressure. I have a anti-inflammatory drink that I've got together. I've got another one for your kidneys. I'm working on a weight loss one right now. I'm testing that out on me and my wife for the next 2 months to see what the weight loss is and if the weight stays off. If that works out, that'll be another juice. I got a total of 7 juices, 16-ounce and 12-ounce ones. No, the problem is most people, most people that juice don't know what they're doing. But like before I started juicing, I didn't even know that there was such thing as a juicer. I used to use a blender and mix a lot of stuff to get the proper taste and the proper reaction from it. Or like mainly the beet juice is more what I would prefer people to drink because it has a lot of stuff in it that that's actually good for your just in general your blood pressure and it relaxes your I mean, it starts from your head down. It gives you energy and everything. My mother, she's in her 70s, was when she tried it, it gave her a lot of energy, and a lot of the problems that she was having doesn't seem as bad now that she's drinking that. So yeah, you got to drink water with that juice that I have. So,
and peace and blessings unto you, brother Prodigal Son. Peace and blessings. All right, so make sure he'll be dropping some info for you guys.
yeah,
I'm
y'all
sure
give me about a month and a half. Y'all give me about a month and a half, and I'll have it together.
Brother
Maybe
Ham's
2
got
months.
great ideas. Stay tuned for Mr. Ham's health journey and his way to give back to the people. So
Twin, I'm actually going. I told Brother Jeremy the other day. I didn't make it up there either, Brother Jeremy. They had me busy. I got to go up. I got to go up to FedEx, UPS, and a couple of the private shipping companies to find out to get good prices on good amounts. But the thing about it is something that Brother Jeremy said to me too, that if I ship a decent amount, whereas I might split half of the shipping with you, and then that way because it costs for the cool for the ship it cool, and also if it's a smaller size or whatever. So I'm working on all of that.
well, doing the shipping, having them. So here's the thing too. We'll talk about that actually, Ham. I don't want to divert because you know me, when I start talking about business and I don't want to go down that road, brother. You know what?
We've
You know
been
how
talking about this. Hey, it's been about a month, ain't it?
Yeah, but you know how my mind works. Once you start telling me stuff, I start coming up with. No. Let me get out of that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So just one other thing to everybody, you have to tell me whichever ones that I send to you. You have to tell me whether you want it clean or with pulp. That's gonna be the question.
I would say clean. I would say pulp or non-pulp. Clean.
Yeah.
Just
Well.
makes it
Yeah.
good.
Okay. Well, pulp or non-pulp.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it'll be
smooth or chunky.
Yeah. That pretty much. But I guarantee you, man. Hey, look, you see the pictures I sent you, the ones.
Yeah, no, those look good, man. Those look really good. Like they look really good.
Hey,
I want to reach in there, grab it out the picture, and start drinking.
Yeah. Hey, look, my wife, she loves them, man. She does. Yeah, but I will say, the beet juice is unless you're having problems with your blood pressure, it's more for like older people, probably, late 30s or early 40s and 50s and on. That it'll be great for that. Like if you've been struggling with it. But the thing about it is the stuff, the juice that I'm working on is it, so you don't have to change the stuff. You somewhat, but you won't have to totally change what you eat. You'll have something that'll counteract all of that. I want something where it flushes out a lot of the sodium and stuff like that out of your body, which the drinks that I have actually do. I didn't notice it, but until I started paying attention to it. But yeah.
So yes, Sister DeWanda, it does add fiber.
Yeah, well, some people like it with the pulp in it, but some people don't. I noticed that with people that I give the drink juice to. Some people like it smooth, and some people like it with pulp in it.
I like it smooth. I'm gonna be straight up with you. I like it smooth.
Because some people like a lot of pulp in it,
Yeah, no, this is true. That's why.
You know how they used to sell that orange juice? Right? How they used to sell the orange juice with smooth or
they still do
pulp.
it.
With pulp, yeah. So,
all right,
yeah,
brother. I want to get back into this one here.
Yeah, sorry about that, brother John.
No, be sorry. I invited you to talk about it, so that's. Yeah. I'm just letting you know. Like, I just want to get back into it. Shout out to you'll hear more from Brother Ham on his way to helping people be healthier. So Shout out to Brother Ham. So, as we read here in the Dominican Republic, you can't be a citizen unless you're born there, right? It says foreign nationals. Under Article 25 of the Dominican Constitution, foreign nationals are afforded the same rights and subjected to the same duties as Dominican nationals while in the Dominican Republic, with one exception. A foreign national may not participate in political activities in the country except to vote in elections in the foreign national's country of origin. If a foreign national encounters legal problems while in the country, the foreign national may request diplomatic protection only after exhausting all available remedies before Dominican authorities and courts, except where international conventions provide otherwise. So if you're arrested, you're in trouble if you're a foreign national. Foreign nationals must properly register with the Registry of Foreigners. So you got to register. General Immigration Law number 285-04 and Immigration Regulation number 631-1 govern the flow of migrants to and from the Dominican Republic and grant the Immigration Department the authority to control the national borders and administer the law. So there's a law here. Dominican Republic has their own law for this. We read where the United States has a certain amount of ones who aren't asylum seekers, who aren't students and things like that. There's a certain cap, but there's no cap to the asylum seekers and things of that nature. So, in that Mexico was pretty similar. They didn't give numbers, but pretty similar in how they go about it as the United States. Here we have the Dominican Republic, vast difference. Different rules for ones who are nationals versus foreign nationals. They're not very fair. Does that make them racist or anti-immigrant? No. I'm going to say it again. That's their laws. That's the way they want it. That doesn't mean that they are racist. That doesn't mean that they are anti-immigrant. That just means that's the way they choose to govern their borders and inside of their country. And that's their right. That's why they're a sovereign nation. Right? That's their business. So let's see the admission to the Dominican Republic. A foreign national is admitted to the Dominican Republic either as a non-resident or resident. Non-residents are those who intend to stay in the country for a limited time for a particular purpose, such as pleasure or business, and require a visa or tourist card for legal entry. So you need it for legal entry. Here we go again, the legality of it. A resident is a foreign national who is staying in the country for an extended period and has obtained legal residency status, evidenced by a residency card. You need a card there. These are all the rules. A non-resident foreign national requires permission to enter and stay in the country. Foreign nationals arriving from countries that are party to a dispensation treaty, generally developed countries, are permitted entry by a tourist card and do not need a visa. You don't need a visa to be a tourist in the United States. You need identification. And you have to report, just like every other country. Tourist cards are purchased for a nominal amount at one of the country's international. You got to purchase it. You got to pay for this card to get in there. You got to pay to get into the Dominican Republic, even as a tourist. Then you have to spend your money as a tourist there. So let's keep that in mind. At the time of entry and before passing through customs, they are valid for 3 months. 3 months, that's it. Your tourist visa is 3 months, which is 180 days, which is what Mexico has. Same rule. Foreign nationals who are not citizens of a country covered by such a treaty need to obtain a visa. Oh, so here's a different rule to obtain a visa before traveling to the Dominican Republic. Application for a visa is made to a Dominican consulate in the foreign national's country of origin, or if no such consulate exists, to a Dominican consulate in a nearby country. Several types of visas are available depending on the purchase of the visa: tourist, business, work, and student visas. The criteria required for each varies, and the type of visa granted is determined by the Immigration Department. There we go again. That department is determining what you need, how you need to do it, when you need to do it, why you need to do it. Visa applications are accepted or denied at the discretion of the government. Wait, the government makes the decision whether you come in or you don't. Visas must be obtained before arrival and are typically valid for 3 months. They cannot be obtained while in the Dominican Republic. Here's another one. Residency status. A foreign national, such as a retiree, a person intent on doing business, or an investor who seeks to stay in the Dominican Republic for a year or more should consider obtaining residency status. So those are 3 reasons you can stay for a year. You are retiring there, which means that you're going to contribute to that country. You're a person doing business, which means you're going to contribute to that country. Or you're an investor, which means you're contributing to that country. Why is it so strange for the United States to ask that you contribute to the country? Why is that a strange thing? Why does that make us racist as a country? Why does it make the law a racist law? Why does it make it an anti-immigrant law? Here we see 2 other countries, same rule. You have to invest in the country if you want to live there. Residency status affords the foreign national legal status in the country, entitling the person to an identification card and access to a more favorable tax structure. You get tax breaks too. If you're a residency status may only be sought while the foreign national is in the country on a residency visa. Once you leave that country, that's it. Applicants must be in good health. They got to be in good health? You can't be a sick person to go there and get residency because they don't want you to have a burden on the healthcare system. Have sufficient economic means and a clean police record. Oh, you got to have sufficient money and you can't be a criminal. The process presently involves 2 steps: temporary residency and permanent residency. Foreign nationals are prohibited by statute from entering the Dominican Republic for residency purposes in the following cases. You're not allowed. Contagious illness threatening to the public health except under certain requirements when sponsored by relatives living in the DR. Pretty standard. Mental illness or physical disabilities with certain exceptions. Oh, so you can't go in the country if you have a mental illness. Can't be a resident there. How much better is the United States looking right now?
Yeah, they require a lot more than the United States does.
So, conviction for a crime, drugs, human trafficking, prostitution, terrorism, and other serious offenses. You can't be a citizen.
Nope.
Can't be a resident. Previous deportation without re-entry permit or prohibition from entering the country. Foreign nationals seeking residency in the Dominican Republic fall into 2 categories.
Yeah.
Those who may apply immediately for permanent residency and those who must apply first for temporary residency. The following applicants may apply immediately for permanent residency status without having to previously obtain temporary. So here we go. So how Dominican Republic does it? Mexico does it. They say if you have a mental illness, you can't go there. They say we ain't taking the crazies.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear the propaganda machine spitting out that nonsense, remember what other countries, and do more research on other countries, their restrictions, there's rules, their regulations. How much better is it here?
Yeah.
For immigrants?
Well, I mean, I still say the same thing, Brother Jeremy. I mean, you're looking at these other countries. They require more from you than the United States does for you to become a citizen. And the problem is they have a problem with that. Like, if you don't like the way that the United States does it, then, I mean, you can go somewhere else.
So Drago, you hit the nail right on the head. Bottom line, no freeloaders. America needs to do the same. This is the thing. People don't understand the strain that it does on the healthcare. That's why your healthcare premiums are so expensive. Because the more freeloaders, the more the United States people have to foot out of pocket. The government doesn't just say, "Oh, I'm covering the bill." No, you are the cover of the bill.
Well,
when you look at your tax returns, you're footing the bill.
Well, let me say this though, brother Jeremy. They're not only the problem with the healthcare thing. It's a bigger it's a sign of a bigger illness with the healthcare situation. Because at one time, like in the the late 1800s into the 1900s, doctors had to earn the right to be a patient's doctor
Yep.
or in that community. And the problem is when they stop having to compete, which when that was the best. And here's the thing, right? I think it got worse when and I keep talking about the civil rights time because that's when what was LBJ
Yeah.
did what he did with the welfare and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then you can't give free health care to you can't get free health care and expect a country to still be running properly. So, these doctors, the reason why they get these crazy amount of money for being a doctor is because the healthcare and the doctors associations, what they've done is begin to gouge the patients through the companies, these insurance companies, right? So they no longer have to compete for your business because people like Obama and the people before him decided that they shouldn't have to compete and you should have to pay for them going to school and doing this and that. No, the healthcare should be insurance companies, doctors, hospitals should have to compete for your business. That's what they should have to do.
Well, that
That's how you get
follows
rid
in
of
line. That follows in line with the how it's supposed to be the fair business practice. But I'm not going to go into that. That's I don't want to go into that. We're going to get sidetracked. Pam, you know me. I'd love to go down that rabbit hole.
Twin. I'm not listen. I'm not against deportation at all.
And peace and blessings.
Any reasonable no question. Any sound thinking person would not be against that because there's no country if you don't have borders. Even
Yeah, what's up, guys?
Hey, what's going on?
Peace and blessings, brother.
What's going on, Prodigal Son? There's
My
no
two brothers, man.
Oh yeah.
Yo, excuse me for interrupt, but you said something about like you can't enter a country if you have mental health problems, but the whole world is struggling mentally. I am right now with depression. You know what I mean? So, what
No, he
are they
was saying
specifically talking about? Are they talking about
Well, I'll read it again.
like
he wasn't
psychotic
talking about the
wise?
United States. He
I'll
wasn't
read it
talking about the
again.
United States. He
It
was talking
says-
about other countries.
This is the Dominican Republic. So it
Well,
says-
dude, they're jacked up over there too, because
Well,
the slave trade. So I
these are-
mean,
these are all the Dominican Republic rules and regulations. I was going back. I started.
I know, bro, Jeremy. But what I'm saying, brother, is that the Dominican Republic's been colonized. So any country that's been colonized or been conquered, they got some depression and anxiety going on over there.
Well,
That's all I'm saying. I mean, because I talk to a lot of vets, bro. A lot of our Marine brothers, man, and especially in the holidays, bro. Woo, it's bad, man. It's
I want
bad.
to read this for you. It says mental
right.
illness or physical disabilities with certain exceptions.
Oh, okay.
So there's certain ones they will accept. I would imagine someone who's like a paraplegic, or but they're not going to. They may take someone that's depressed, but like a lunatic, right?
Oh yeah. So somebody that's like an addict, substance abuse.
Yeah,
a danger to themselves and others.
Correct,
Yeah, they don't want to continue to.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. You don't want nobody in your country. It's like in a psych ward, man. And and 5150, and I got it. I thought it was like the regular mental, like the most common. The most common mental illnesses. You know what I mean?
That's why it says with that's why when you say with certain exceptions, that leads me to the more extremes, because they're probably going to accept like the anxiety, the minor ones, right? Not manic depressant, probably not schizophrenic.
Yeah, man.
They won't accept those.
Multiple personalities. They let you.
Yeah. The schizophrenia. People. Because Jeremy, because the thing is, people have schizophrenic problems and bipolar is because it's either hereditary or it's because of drug abuse. Those
Yeah.
only two things. Those only two ways that they have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, so the and this is why I wanted to bring out the difference, but because people call
Yeah, because
the
yeah, 'cause earlier
laws.
I was like, "What are you talking about mental?" I'm like, "Hold up," because I battle with it. We all battle with something.
Yeah. So
No, he
the
wasn't just talking
laws.
about. He wasn't talking about just that.
No. I was breaking down the rules to be. This is for residency, right? For to be, there's certain
Dominican,
rules that you
Dominican
have for
Republic.
legal residency,
Mm-hmm.
non-national, like that. This is why it says a foreign national. So the foreign nationals don't have all the same rules as a national, and you can't be a national. You can only be a foreign national, right? So over there, and so Mexico is kind of the same. So these countries,
Mexico.
yeah. So I went through Mexico too. Mexico's laws are very similar to ours, but a little more stringent. But the common denominator that I'm seeing is you can only be a citizen if you are contributing to the country. They won't allow you to be a citizen if you're not, right? So when people are complaining about us footing the bill for people to live 100% free off the government who aren't even
Can't do
citizens,
that.
well, who aren't citizens, that's what's going on,
You gotta be able to.
right?
You got. It has to be a reason. It has to be a reason why that person is living off the
But
government. You know what I mean?
no, I'm saying solely immigrants. So when the
Yeah, I mean,
immigrants were there,
immigrants can't do that.
but they were. This is what I'm
They're,
telling you.
oh yeah, man, they were doing that for like what? How many years now? More than 50 years
But
now.
that's the point I'm addressing. When
Oh
you
yeah, I agree
address
with you,
that
bro.
point,
Yeah.
when you address that point, you're automatically classified as a racist or an anti-immigrant.
No,
That's
man, it's
what
like, dude, you're not from here, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I
it goes.
understand like America got annexed. You know what I'm saying? I understand that, but what I'm saying is this, man. You got, in this modern times. I know it sucks, but you gotta follow the rules, man.
Correct. Here's the thing. Correct me tell me if this makes sense to you. If you break it down to a simpler form, and I say this moreover, if you have your family and you only have enough to feed your family, and there's a neighbor that's starving, are you going to take care of your neighbor and neglect your family, or are you going to take care of your family and feel bad that you have to neglect that neighbor?
I'm go- I'm gonna feel bad because about the neighbor.
Correct. When
It's
you
common
look at
sense, you know what I'm saying?
same,
Yeah, yeah,
same
yeah,
with the
yeah. I'm
country.
gonna I'm gonna feel bad about the neighbor.
Same thing is with the country. If you can't take care of your own people, what business are you trying to take care of other people?
Yeah, America's jacked up, man. You know what I mean? Pastor's right, man. I mean, America's so wicked, man, and it's just that it's wicked out here, man.
So
Y'all keep me in prayer, man, for real. Because I mean, when November hit, man, I started feeling this seasonal depression. It just hits me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll definitely pray for
So,
you.
so I want
It's the seasons, man. It's like I don't like winter time. You know what I'm saying? It's like it gets dark earlier. You know what I mean? It's just messing with me right now, man.
yeah, you'll definitely be in prayer. I want to get to this part here. So this here is the following applicants. Remember, this is Dominican Republic may apply immediately for permanent residency status without having to previously obtain temporary residence status. So that you had to have temporary residence status first for the other ones above. Then you could get permanent. Investors of at least 200,000 US dollars in local businesses, including free zones and government contracts, or in local financial instruments. So you can bypass it if you give 200,000 US dollars to a local business or the government contracts. Retirees with a monthly pension of at least 1,500 US dollars
Mm-hmm.
plus 250 US dollar per dependent. So this is where you can bypass it. If you have money, guess what? You got a free ticket. Applicants with monthly income of at least 2,000 US dollars for 5 years or more applicants related to Dominicans or to foreigners with permanent residency status in DR, spouses and children. The applicant process is essentially the same for both temporary and permanent residency, except for some additional documents required in permanent residency applications. So you can become a permanent resident if you have all this financial dollar.
Shouldn't it be converted as pesos over there?
Well, this is from United States, so I'm sure they do in pesos, but this is from someone who deals with it. This is the English version of it, right?
That's crazy, man. And
you see how it's much worse.
Yeah, bro. And those countries don't even come close to the United States.
But this is what I'm saying. If you
feel me?
So does that make them racist? No. It makes them taking care of their people. I have no problem with that. I don't think it's racist. Who's saying it's racist?
Christopher Spain.
If the United States said the reason why I'm saying that is because if you say that if the United States said that they would be racist. That's
honestly, though, bro, JD, I think it'll be racist. It'll be mainly racist towards Mexicans because California is Mexico. Just keep it 100. You feel me?
There's no such a thing as racism, y'all.
But let's keep it a buck. You know what I mean? California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas was all Mexican territory a long time ago.
Oh, of course, yeah, I know it was.
You know what I mean? So it depends.
Well,
I think.
Son, I got one better for you.
It's 50-50 to me.
But listen to this one though, Prodigal Son. The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof.
Right. So legality.
If you're doing wickedness, man,
legality part.
Yo, bro, Ham. If you're doing wickedness and you're cartelling and causing ruckus, you got to get up out of here, man.
Yeah, I agree.
So the legality part is what I'm focusing on, the rules and regulations.
Oh yeah. But if they're hurting people and trying to hurt, and bring the thing is, guys, let's keep it real. The government, the CIA is the drug thing is all a business. They're working together, whether we like it or not.
Of course. But this is what I'm trying to focus on. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I know you're right on that. I agree with you. I just don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
The money got to keep flowing. You know what I'm saying?
Correct. I agree. But what I'm saying is, so this is a requirement if you want to bypass the other steps. This is an option, right?
That's crazy.
$200,000. Peace and blessings, brother Christopher Spain. So that's what I'm saying to you. So when we look at the United States legal entry and immigration laws, look at it from a broader perspective of just this country. Look at the other countries, and that's why I'm doing worldwide.
Oh yeah, man. America's in bad shape. It's because the Democrats just let everybody in here, man.
Correct. And that's the
problem. Pretty much it destroyed everything. And pretty much mainly even destroyed the job market, man. The most.
So
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So it has a lot of different ways. So I want to get to Switzerland now.
Can you hear me?
Show Switzerland. Yeah. No, I hear you. I agree with you. I'm just trying to. I want to get to Switzerland because we went through the United States, we went to Mexico, we went to the Dominican Republic, different parts. Yeah. I can hear you. Different parts. So different parts have different parts of the world.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're clear. It might be on your end. You're absolutely right. Shout out to Christopher Spain. And you're right. For a retired individual, that's not a lot of money. You're right. It's not. But I want to, we went from the United States to Mexico to the Dominican Republic. Now we're going to go across the Atlantic and we're going to get Switzerland. Okay. This is it difficult to immigrate to Switzerland? So it says immigrating to Switzerland requires a long stay visa, which varies based on the purpose of the move, such as work, study, or family reunification. All foreign nationals, including those from the EU, EFTA, must apply for a residency permit at their chosen canton's immigration office. This permit must be obtained within 14 days of arrival. The initial residency permit is typically valid for 1 year and can be renewed annually. Permanent residency is available after 10 years of continuous residency. Switzerland does not grant residency permits based on property ownership, meaning foreigners must have a valid residency permit before purchasing real estate. You can't even buy real estate unless you're a citizen there. Okay? Those looking to move to Switzerland must apply for a long stay visa. The most common types include the Swiss work visa, required for non-EU EFTA citizens seeking employment, the family reunification visa for spouses and dependents of Swiss residents, and the Swiss study visa for students enrolled in Swiss universities. This is the common theme. You have to add to that country if you want to live there. You can't just go to go. A residence permit is mandatory for stays longer than 3 months and is issued by cantonal immigration and labor market authorities. This is crucial for anyone wanting to immigrate to Switzerland. Applying for residency permit. Each of Switzerland's 26 cantons has its own regulations for residency and work permits. Foreign nationals, including those from EU EFTA countries, must apply at the relevant cantonal office. I would imagine that's the region of the country. Processing times for permits vary, so applicants should be prepared for possible delays. Required documents depend on nationality, visa type, and residency status. Nationality, visa type. EU EFTA citizens must register within 14 days of arrival if staying longer than 90 days. The L permit is a short-term residency permit valid for 1 year, extendable up to 3 years. The B permit is a renewable 1-year residency permit, often linked to employment contracts. The C permit is granted after 10 years of residency or 5 years for some nationalities. So some nationalities is 5, some is 10. And offers permanent residence to those who decide to immigrate to Switzerland. So that right there, depending.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good now. You're good.
Man,
No,
what
we
happened?
heard you. We heard you. I don't think you could hear us. So
Yeah, all right. Continue.
depending on your nationality, it could be 5 years you have to be there or 10 years. That's the stipulation the Swiss government puts on you. So here we have a different spin to their residency rules, right?
Hey, Jeremy, excuse me. Hey, dude, do Japan, man. They're getting strict out there,
I
bro.
got a video on Japan. I got a video on Japan coming up after this.
Bro.
Where a guy breaks it down.
Bro,
that's crazy.
The foreigners are acting so stupid out there, bro.
No, wait till you see that video. Trust me, I got a video for that. We'll get to that. You'll probably be like, "Yep, that's exactly what I was talking about." You will. I don't doubt it.
Dang.
So, Looking for God says, if there's no racism, can either one of you explain what is racism? What is your halves? And you have nuts.
Can I say something about that?
Hold on. Is there an equal playground for everyone to play on? There's equal opportunity, but not equal outcome.
Can I address that real quick? Because I'm the one that said it.
Oh yeah.
So let me say this is the best way to explain it. God created one race. There can't be racism if there's only one race. Doesn't matter. Again,
all races came from one race.
That's right. One blood.
Right. Correct. So you can't be racist because there's only one race. Now you can be a bigot. You can be a bigot.
Be prejudiced.
Or or prejudice.
Yeah, it's like Pastor said, black woman gave birth to our races, man.
So,
Yeah.
so
So I
There's no such
mean,
thing as- I don't believe in racism. I believe in bigotry and
so
stuff like
same
that.
here. It's
I
bigotry. You know what I mean?
I want to address. He's equating racism with wealth, and here's his mistake. Wealth does not go according to race. Let's be straight. Now, when you have
Hold on.
hold
Since
on,
he's talking about wealth,
hold on,
okay. This is
real
hold on.
quick.
I want to say something real quick about
All right.
this, man. Have you guys ever heard of people that are like more darker, looking down more down upon compared to people that are lighter because they get more money, they're richer?
So here's the thing.
It's like
I don't.
it's like that. It's like that in Asia, and especially in the Philippines. It's like
Well,
that,
yeah,
and
yes, that the darker colored Asians.
more we're
That's
like
exactly
farmers. You know what I'm saying? Like,
correct.
and
They're looked at as
we get looked down upon and judged.
yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
So mixing wealth, it is racism to me.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not racism. Here's the thing.
Explain
Here's
to
the
me.
thing.
All right.
That's what I'm going to do. So when you have, all right. So we'll take this country first, and then we can go outside of the country because there's wealthy countries that are non-white, really rich ones. We'll get to that, but let's focus here.
All
So
right.
when you look at the United States has equal opportunity, not equal outcome. Not everybody can be a millionaire. Not
that's
everybody
facts.
can be a billionaire. So when you look at someone's success, instead of looking at their skin color, why don't you look at what they did to get there first? Let's start there. How did they do that? What avenues did they take? For instance, when you look at rich people, they say, oh, they're just greedy. Well, they take advantage of the tax brackets that everybody has. It's just they research how the taxes work more so than others, so they can take advantage of that in their favor. So the same laws apply for all people who work. It's whether you're using that to your advantage to keep money in your pocket. Are you investing your money where it's less taxes to you because you're investing it in other areas? What are you doing? So it's not as simple as what the propaganda machine throws out there. For instance, if you take a 401k, an IRA, you take some of your money and you shift it to there, it looks on paper as if you're in a lower tax bracket. Therefore, you get taxed less. So if you're not taking advantage of that, and if you work for yourself and you don't, the meals that you purchase for your guys and for yourself, that can go down as a tax write-off for your business. So therefore, there's lots of different ways you can attack it. But here's the thing. Most people don't look into it. They don't look into how they can do these things. So some people get richer. Yes. Because not everybody can be a business owner. That's a fact. Equal opportunity, not equal outcome. You're looking for equal outcome, which will never happen. Because
are you talking about minus Hollywood and the celebrities?
What? Yeah, I'm talking just business. You'll never, ever you have to have people that. Here's how the structure works in the United States, and you also got to look at whenever they break down the percentages. Oh well, Black Americans makes X amount of money less than whites. Well, what age group African Americans and white Americans are you looking at? Because when you're younger, you make less, and it takes you longer. As you get aged and you get better at your craft, you tend to make more.
Exactly.
So a black person who's 55 is going to make more than a white person who's 20. And the reason behind that is because experience, and they've been working long.
Longevity.
Correct. So you have to, what do you mean when you say that? You got to go with straight facts, not propaganda. So whenever I hear this tells me that it's somebody who is uneducated, who doesn't know the system and how to work through the system that everybody has available to them. Me personally,
also, it decides on what the person's responsible or not.
it depends on what field you go in.
Yeah, what
right?
job? Yeah,
Look
it
at a
depends.
doctor.
It depends what job you're doing.
No,
A
no, no.
doctor
I'm just saying,
has
just the
a higher
person in
risk.
general, though,
Yeah,
still has to be a responsible person too.
I agree. Here's the thing: a
Yeah, I agree with
doctor.
that. I agree.
The reason a doctor gets paid more is because there's a higher risk and responsibility on him
Oh
versus
yeah,
a guy who's
higher
working
stress,
at
higher
McDonald's.
anxiety and stress levels.
Whereas as
Hey,
a
hey, brother Jeremy,
McDonald's
y'all. Hey,
worker.
God bless all of y'all, man. My wife just got home. I'm gonna try to get back on here if you still on here.
All right, brother. Yeah, no doubt.
All right, bro.
Hey,
All right,
God bless
brother.
all of
God
y'all,
bless.
man. Hey, thanks for supporting brother Jeremy.
Oh yeah.
All right. God bless you.
God bless. So that's another thing, right? You look at a doctor. A doctor's going to get paid more because it's a higher risk. There's less people that can do it. It goes by supply and demand. That's the fundamentals of economics. Is supply and demand. This is why beachfront property costs more than if you're in the Midwest, because there's less of that land. Therefore, the supply is shorter and the demand is greater, which makes the price rise. Whereas the Midwest, the supply meets the demand, so it brings it lower. That's why Walmart and them supply and demand certain things. That's why milk is cheaper than gold, because the supply and demand. You can produce more milk than you can find gold. Therefore, the gold is going to have a higher value because it's more of a scarcity. This is economics 101. So if you're in a field and you're working at McDonald's, you're going to get paid less. If you're working as a doctor, you're going to get paid more. There's less people that can do it, and the demand is higher than the supply. There's not enough doctors to supply for the sick people. Therefore, they make more money. That's how it works. So you have to understand economics in order to understand why there's a discrepancy in pay structure. If you're sitting there and you're going to be a technician all your life, yeah, you're not going to get more pay. If you grow in your respective field and you become a professional, you get more money. It's all about what you put into it. If you don't want to put anything into it, you won't make nothing. So equal opportunity, not equal outcome. You will never have equal outcome. I don't care where you look on the globe, what time period, till Jesus comes back, you'll never have equal outcome. You can have equal opportunity, which means that opportunity is there for if you want to take it. If you don't want to take it, that's on you. You can't blame somebody else. So whenever I hear this, it's a red flag to me. It's a red flag that you don't understand economics. You don't understand how it works. There's only a certain, if you had all billionaires, who's doing the work? Who's doing the work? It doesn't work that way. I advise you to understand how it works before you regurgitate what the propaganda machine spits at you. Do your research. I've done many bits of research on it. I've started reading books on economics, how it works. You really got to know how to navigate. An IRA is non-taxable. A 401k is taxable. You can withdraw from an IRA at the end and it's non-taxable. But if you have a 401k, it's taxable. There's differences. There's different types of IRAs. So, but back to it. But it was a great question, nevertheless. I'm thankful for the question. And shout out to Life with Paulette. Sister Life with Paulette, peace and blessings unto you. If I didn't greet you, I don't remember. And looking for God, peace and blessings unto you as well. Thank you all for tuning in. But I want to get back to this immigration legality part. As we're seeing in Switzerland, it's much different than the previous three. Not for the better either. Not for the better for the one trying to get in, but more favorable for the country, if we put it that way. That seems like a reasonable way. All right, so job market and employment. Switzerland's economy favors skilled workers, especially in baking, pharmaceuticals, IT, and engineering. So right here, there's a certain type of people that country's looking for. Right? Doesn't make them racist. It just means they know what they want. That's what they want. Knowledge of a national language, German, French, or Italian, can improve job prospects. though English is widely used in international. So they have a preference for language. When you have immigrants come over and they don't want to learn the language, that's actually a qualification. You have to know the language for citizenship. And we'll get to that. Swiss employers prioritize formal qualifications and relevant experience. Networking, particularly through platforms like LinkedIn, can enhance employment opportunities. Switzerland maintains a low unemployment rate and a strong work-life balance, making it attractive for those wanting to immigrate to Switzerland. Swiss path to the Swiss citizenship. There are two main routes to become Swiss: ordinary nationalization and simplified naturalization. Ordinary naturalization requires 10 years of residency, a valid C permit, and proof of integration. Simplified nationalization is available for spouses and children of Swiss citizens and some stateless individuals with reduced residency requirements. Swiss citizenship grants rights such as voting, running for public office, and in most cases, dual nationality. So you're not allowed to vote. You're not allowed to participate in voting, so you don't get a right. And here's the push that they say that immigrants should have, that aren't citizens, should have a legal right. No, you should become a citizen if you want to contribute in that manner, because you're in it for the long haul. Many people aim to immigrate to Switzerland to gain Swiss citizenship eventually. Cultural integration and language requirements for immigrating to Switzerland. To obtain Swiss citizenship, applicants must demonstrate integration into society, including proficiency in one of the national languages and knowledge of Swiss history and culture. Well, that's something you have to do if you want to become a citizen, because you need to know about the place that you live. You need to be able to communicate in the place that you live. Living in Switzerland for a year between the ages of 8 and 18 counts as 2 years, so they double for children, toward the residency requirement. Citizenship applications are assessed at the federal, cantonal, and municipal levels. This is an essential part of the process for those wanting to immigrate to Switzerland. Can U.S. citizens move to Switzerland? U.S. citizens can visit Switzerland for up to 90 days without a visa, but require a long-stay visa for extended stays. Americans make up around 5% of Switzerland's foreign population. Upon arrival, new residents must enroll in Swiss health insurance within 3 months. Switzerland's immigration policies favor highly skilled professionals, which may impact job opportunities for U.S. applicants. So not only is it a benefit when you're in this country and you're favored in other countries that may give you a better way of how you want to live. You may match that. This goes out to equal opportunity, not equal outcome. Switzerland remains an attractive destination for immigrants, offering a high quality of life and economic stability. However, strict immigration rules and high living costs means careful planning is essential before making the move to immigrate to Switzerland. The cost of moving to Switzerland from the U.S. averages around $3,450. Through expenses vary. Long-term Swiss visa application costs between $47 and $94. New residents must enroll in Swiss health insurance within 3 months of arrival. There's a thing. They want you paying into the system so it doesn't burden their own people. Some visa categories have annual quotas, which may limit opportunities for certain applications. There's that thing again, certain amount. So that's a brief one on Switzerland. So let's look at the United States and how they operate. We saw Mexico, we saw the Dominican Republic, and now we saw the Swiss. The Swiss, you have to learn the language. One of those languages, you have to know it. That doesn't make you racist. If you want to live in a country, you should learn. If I want to live in Mexico, I should know Spanish. Rightfully so. That's their native tongue. I need to respect them. I need to know about their culture. I need to respect them. I'm going into someone else's house. I need to respect their house rules. If that house says take your shoes off at the door, you don't go walking in with your shoes on. If that place says if you have to use the downstairs bathroom and not the upstairs bathroom as a guest, I got to follow the rules of the house. If they eat dinner at 5 o'clock, I'm not coming down to eat dinner at 6. I follow the rules of the household. I follow the rules of the country. If that country says, learn the language, learn the culture, you're gonna follow by their laws, you do it. I don't care if you go to Antarctica. I don't care if you go to South Korea. You should know their language. You should know some of their history. You should know their customs. I'm not saying you have to participate in them, but know them to give respect to them. You don't go in somebody's house disrespectfully. Why is it okay to go into somebody else's country disrespectfully? It's just a larger scale, same concept. It's all about respecting them. You desire to live, don't disrupt their peace. I'm not saying you have to participate in all the festivities that they do. Know about it. Know their culture. Know their language. And stay in your lane. If I go to Portugal, I better know Portuguese. If I go to Brazil, I better know Portuguese. If I go to Colombia, I better know Spanish. If I want to be a resident there, I better know it. And not only that, it helps you so you don't get taken advantage of. You're preparing yourself to succeed, and you're preparing yourself to also respect them. When did having respect for other people's things disappear? When did respect for other people's sovereignty disappear? It's not racist, it's respect. Wrong R word. That racist word is thrown around way too much. I don't even think people know what racism really is. I don't even think they can identify it. They think they can identify it, but they can't identify it. Stop listening to the propaganda machines. Turn CNN off. Turn Fox News off. Turn MSNBC off. Turn all them off. Turn off the BBC. It's feeding you nonsense. So I want to go into this next video, and please feel free to share your thoughts on even if you disagree with me. That's fine. It's okay to disagree with me. I don't have a problem with that. I'm used to people disagreeing with me. I kind of enjoy it because it's a helpful dialogue. I can learn something, they can learn something, or if I just learn something, hey, I gain something out of it. One thing I do know is I've learned to have an appreciation for different cultures. The Spanish culture is very different. They're very welcoming. They're very genuine and kind for the most part. When you get people that are from that country, they are. They're very generous. They're very hospitable. Then, I worked with a gentleman from Nigeria, Uganda. I'm sorry, and he told me some things about that country. That country, Uganda, is very rich. It's a rich country. There's lots of rich countries in Africa. They only show you on TV the poor areas. They don't show you the rich areas. Nigeria is a rich country. They have lots of resources. They're not poor. So he told me stories about how they pull you over and tell you if you don't pay them money, they'll take you to jail. So I've had my experience with the Brazilians are the same way as it's the same kind of Latin culture. Very welcoming, very friendly, very, very hospitable, very genuine. You have your few, obviously, like every other nation, every other ethnicity. We all have them, right? There's white people that are hospitable, kind, and then there's some that are just total jerks and just awful people. It happens. But it's not a race thing, it's an individual thing. So they all have their good things about them. Every culture has a beauty to it. It's different. It's a wonderful thing. Experience other cultures, embrace it as in a learning experience, and really know them for who they are. you won't regret it. So we'll get into this video about Japan. It's a short video. I'm going to stop here and there. Peace and blessings, Mr. Peaceology. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to start this video here, and we'll let you hear.
There's a rise in anti-foreigner sentiment in Japan. Japan is anti-immigration and xenophobic. At least that's what the mainstream news headlines and narrative would have you believe. But is that really true? The global rise in anti-immigration sentiment is unmistakable, from the US to the UK and Europe to even South Korea. Both the pro and anti-immigration sides claim to have facts and truth on their side. Japan appears to be no exception. You can find YouTube and TikTok videos of street demonstrations in Tokyo and political parties campaigning on Japan First platforms. Oh, and did you know that Japan just elected its first female prime minister, whose hardline stance on immigration control is winning her a 78% approval rating, as well as praise and support from President Trump? Here's a story that caught my attention. In October 2025, residents of Kuchan, a small but world-famous ski resort town in Hokkaido, Japan's northernmost prefecture, launched a petition with 4,000 signatures to block the construction of a foreign worker dormitory. The proposed facility would house 1,200 seasonal workers, most of them foreigners from Southeast Asia, who are needed to run the ski resorts and construction sites. Residents cited concerns about noise, garbage, and nighttime safety. One petition organizer said that she felt as if they were becoming foreigners in their own town. After all, 1,200 workers would be 10% of the town's entire population in a single complex. But here's what's interesting. The same town has been struggling with closed shops and an aging population for years. The local convenience store can barely stay open because there aren't enough workers. So you have this fascinating contradiction. Locals protesting the foreign workers who are needed to serve the foreign tourists whose money keeps their town alive. There is no denying that Japan is very different from Western countries like the US. It's an extremely homogeneous society with over 97% ethnically Japanese. And it's historically been a very closed-off country, which we will get into in a bit. But setting all the emotions and politics aside, we decided to do our own research to share.
So you notice 97% of Japan is Japanese, 3% are non-Japanese. Does that make Japan racist? No, it doesn't. And you see the same dilemma. So, and you notice how we said, if you listen to the mainstream media, they'll have you believe this. That's why I said that's the propaganda machine. They want you divided, so therefore you can't come together. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line with the mainstream media. I don't care which one it is. I really don't care. They're all the same. It's like saying, I voted for Trump or I voted for Kamala. You're voting for the same person, right? So let's get back into that.
To the best of our knowledge, what Japan's immigration policy is actually like. By the end of this video, hopefully you can form your own opinion on Japan's approach to immigration. Of course, this requires us to go beyond the headlines and get into the nuances because, believe it or not, there are crucial differences between legal immigration and illegal immigration, as well as between highly skilled workers and low-skilled laborers. What about temporary work visas versus permanent residency? We need to get into all that because this is unfolding right before our eyes, while ordinary Japanese citizens are dealing with rising costs, a housing crisis, and the reality that their country is losing around 900,000 Japanese nationals every year. 16 consecutive years of population decline. Let's dive right in.
Here's a simple Christian-centered online business that you haven't.
First of all, how Japan ended up becoming so isolated is actually pretty fascinating. And until we did our research, we didn't even realize it had everything that would make for one crazy streaming show. Samurai, Christianity, civil war, and massacre. Turns out, there actually was a show out there called Shogun. The main character, John Blackthorne, is an English navigator who shipwrecks in Japan in the year 1600 and eventually becomes a samurai. That character was based on a real person, William Adams, the first and only Englishman to ever achieve samurai rank. So from a historical perspective, there was a time when Japan was open-minded about foreigners and eager to learn from them. But to understand how someone like William Adams could even reach Japan in the first place, we need to go back even further. We have to rewind 482 years before the United States even existed. By the way, while I was watching Shogun, it got me thinking, what if there was a way to actually learn Japanese super fast just by watching my favorite shows? It turns out there is. Because if you're serious about working, doing business, or settling long-term in Japan, learning Japanese isn't really optional, right? It's a must. That's why we decided to partner with Migaku, a language learning platform that lets you learn Japanese from what you already watch on YouTube, Netflix, Disney Plus, basically anywhere. You can now get 50% off the lifetime plan or an extra free month on their standard and early access plans. And if you've ever wanted to learn other Asian languages, Migaku also supports Korean, Mandarin, and many other languages, all of which you can access with a single Migaku subscription. So be sure to take advantage of their discount offer. All right, let's get back to the deep dive. On September 23rd, 1543, a typhoon struck off the coast of southern Japan. 3 Portuguese merchants were aboard a trading ship that got caught in the typhoon, blown off course, and crash-landed at Tanegashima Island. When they stumbled off the ship, half dead, the local warlord came down to the shore to see what the hell was going on. These foreigners looked completely different from anyone he had seen. Tall, bearded, strange clothing. But what really caught his attention were the 2 long metal tubes they were carrying. They were called matchlock guns, and they could spit fire and kill somebody from a distance. And he, or anyone else in Japan for that matter, had never seen anything like it. Within days, the local warlord bought both guns for what sources describe as an astronomical sum. Some sources claim as much as 80 pounds of pure silver, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in today's purchasing power. He immediately ordered his swordsmiths to reverse engineer them, and within a year, Japan was producing its own firearms. This moment, this accidental arrival of the Portuguese merchants, were Japan's first ever recorded contact with Europeans. And it opened the door for what came next, a Portuguese trading network that would bring even more merchants and eventually missionaries. About 6 years later, on August 15, 1549, a Spanish priest named Francis Javier stepped off a Portuguese ship on Kagoshima, a port city in southern Japan. He had heard about this mysterious country from a fugitive Japanese samurai he met in Malacca, a Portuguese trading port in what is now Malaysia, and he was convinced that Japan was ready for Christianity. And his intuition was correct. Within his first year, Javier succeeded in converting about 100 Japanese to Christianity, laying the groundwork for Japan's earliest Christian community. By 1551, the first church in Japan was built.
I'm going to interrupt that for the record. No Christianity, no such thing. We know that. This is the video. That's what they know it as. But as you can see, lots of different things that you're hearing in this one video with a history lesson attached to it. And I'm very thankful. So this is where you've got to really do your research before you comment on a thing, before you say something is what it is.
By the time Javier left Japan after 2 years, he had baptized several hundred new believers, a remarkable foundation for a movement that would eventually grow to as many as 300,000 Japanese Christians by the year 1600. Even local warlords were rolling out the red carpet for him, but not because they cared about Christianity. It was because Portuguese merchant ships usually followed Catholic missionaries, and where there are ships, there's trade money. But here's where things started to get a little awkward, to say the least. Christianity clashed with pretty much everything Japan was founded upon at the time. No ancestor worship? That was unthinkable in a society where traditions revolved around honoring one's ancestors. Saying things like, everyone is equal before God, that was a direct threat to the social hierarchy where everyone had their place, from peasants to samurai to the lords at the top. And putting God above your feudal lord? That was straight up treason. The same warlords who welcomed Christianity for the trade benefits suddenly realized that this religion could upend their entire power structure. In 1614, the second shogun, the Japanese word for military ruler, officially banned Christianity, ordering all foreign priests to leave or face execution. Japanese Christians were forced to renounce their faith or face death. Fast forward to 1637, Tokugawa Iemitsu, the third shogun, was now in power, and the crackdown got even more brutal in the Shimabara Peninsula, which had a large underground Christian population. The local lord, with full backing from the shogun, was not only hunting down Christians and torturing them publicly. We're talking about crucifixion, suspension of boiling springs, water torture, but also imposing crushing taxes on peasants to fund his new castle. On top of that, the region was hit by famine and people were starving and desperate. So desperate, in fact, that in October 1637, they murdered a tax collector sent by the local lord. That was the breaking point. With nothing left to lose, roughly 37,000 people, consisting of peasants, masterless samurai called ronin, and entire Christian families, rose up in open rebellion. They seized an abandoned castle called Hara, repaired it, and fortified it. Their leader was an 18-year-old kid named Amakusa Shiro, described as a charismatic prophet with supposed miraculous powers. The shogun's initial forces, thousands of trained samurai, were defeated by rebels holed up in that fortress. Even though these rebels were peasants led by experienced, masterless samurai, how could they overcome professional warriors? Shocked and humiliated, Shogun Tokugawa Iemitsu mobilized 125,000 troops, essentially his entire military, to surround one castle. He even called in his Dutch allies to bombard the fortress from the sea with naval cannons. The siege lasted 4 months. By the end, the rebels were starving, surviving on seaweed scraped from rocks below the castle walls. On April 12, 1638, the shogun's army launched a final overwhelming assault. The castle fell in one day. All 37,000 people inside, men, women, children, elderly, were hunted down and beheaded. Not a single person inside the castle were allowed to surrender. Their 18
So now, to fit the other, to destroy the other narrative that blacks in the United States are the only ones that had nobody's ever faced anything like that in slavery. Well, 37,000 people beheaded. Men, women, children, didn't matter. Done. 37,000 one day. Think about that before you listen to the propaganda machine.
year-old leader, Amakusa Shiro's body was found among the corpses, and his head was cut off and displayed on a pike in Nagasaki as a warning to anyone who dared to defy the shogun. It was the moment when public Christianity in Japan was crushed, forced underground, with believers facing decades of secrecy and persecution. 1 year later, in 1639, Shogun Tokugawa Iemitsu issued a decree called Sakoku, the closed country policy that would seal Japan off from the world. The rules were absolute. All Portuguese were expelled immediately. All foreign books were banned except those the government allowed through Dutch and Chinese traders. Only one trade port remained open, Nagasaki, where Dutch and Chinese merchants were confined to a tiny island and carefully supervised. For 214 years, from 1639 to 1853, Japan was virtually cut off from the outside world. No Japanese could leave. No foreigners could enter. During this era, the United States was founded. The French Revolution happened. The Industrial Revolution transformed Europe. But in Japan, almost no one outside the ruling elite knew these events were even taking place. By 1853, when 4 massive US warships powered by steam engines arrived in Edo Bay, Japan had been isolated for longer than the United States had even existed as a country. By the way, the Japanese were absolutely terrified because they had never seen modern Western military technology. Commodore Matthew Perry of the US Navy delivered a letter from President Fillmore demanding that Japan open its ports to American ships under threat of military force, and gave Japan 1 year to respond. In February 1854, Perry returned to Japan a full month earlier than promised, and this time with 8 warships. Faced with overwhelming American power, Japan had no choice but to sign the Convention of Kanagawa, opening 2 ports to American ships. It signaled the end of Japan's 214 years closed country policy. So you can't fully appreciate Japan's immigration policy without understanding why they closed the doors in the first place. And now you know. The reason why Japan today is 97% ethnically Japanese is a direct result of policy decisions made 400 years ago to ward off foreign religion that could destabilize their feudal system. So what do you think 214 years of isolation can do to Japan's sense of identity? And what happens when that identity is under threat? That's what we're going to explore next.
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive Officer.
So they want to keep their tradition. That's the reason. Them as a country, it's their right. They want to preserve it. They want you to embrace it. At least acknowledge it, right? So different areas of the world, different scenarios, yet some similar, some more extreme than others, but yet the same thing remains. So you got to ask yourself, if the United States wants you to have it come to this country a certain way, what is wrong about it? They've made different rules for different people, but now you have certain people taking advantage of it. And what that does when you take advantage of a rule that was set in place to help those who actually need it. Nobody's talking about that. It's solely the United States is racist and anti-immigration, and it's just crazy madness. Nobody's talking about how these people are breaking the law of the land. Nobody wants to talk about it because automatically that puts you in a certain category. Me, I really don't care. I call it like I see it. The laws are there for a reason. I don't know the intricate, exact details, but they're there for a reason. I do know that if people want to come here legally, I'm all for it. You want to contribute, better your life, contribute to the place that you live in, I'm all for it. You contribute to your neighborhood. You contribute to your local businesses when you go and buy things from local businesses. What is wrong with that? You come and you live a peaceable life. What's wrong with that? I'm against the illegal immigrants. I'm against the ones who come over with massive loads of drugs. Not all of them do, but there are some. I'm against that. And I will stand 10 toes down. I'm against it. I'm against, even if the government allows it in, I'm against that as well. There's no partiality. There's no favoritism.
So is Japan really anti-immigration? Well, that depends on how you define the term immigration, because the devil's in the details. Broadly speaking, immigration could mean either legal or illegal immigration. And it does appear that Japan is tightening policies on the illegal portion. But the question is, what even counts as illegal immigration in the Japanese context? In the case of the United States, the definition of illegal immigration is relatively straightforward. It's geographically possible for people from Mexico to cross the US-Mexico border without going through an authorized port of entry. While stricter border enforcement under President Trump has made this far more difficult in recent years, the act of entering the US itself is what makes someone illegal under 8 US Code Section 1325A, which states any alien who enters or attempts to enter the United States at any time or place other than as designated by immigration officers shall be fined or imprisoned not more than 6 months or both. In other words, if you cross the US border outside of an official port of entry, you've committed a federal misdemeanor for a first offense, and any subsequent illegal re-entry after deportation is a felony punishable by up to 20 years in prison. The Center for Immigration Studies estimates that there are over 15 million unauthorized immigrants as of January 2025, which represents roughly 4.6% of a total US population of approximately 347 million.
So, those are the people that make it harder for others. And those are the ones that are rightfully punished, right? Sort of just like if you went over to Mexico, you do it by the way their rules are, you should be rightfully punished. It goes both ways. The moment we take away that, if we took away that rule and everybody can come over, everybody would be criticizing them, saying, you got to close the border. I'll guarantee it. I'll guarantee it. So Brother Uso says, stupid London should have took notes. America heading that way if we don't stop it. Sharia law gonna be everywhere. I'm not familiar with Sharia law. Maybe you could help me out with that. But you're right. There needs to be border. I mean, that's just what it is. You can argue on who had what or who did this and whatever the case may be. You can argue that till the sun comes home. Not a problem. But as of right now, these are the way the borders are, and these are the rules and regulations that everybody has to follow. And if you follow them, yeah, come on over. Be a part of this country. And I hope you prosper. And I hope you do really well. But if you don't, yeah, that's not right. It's wrong. And I'll stick with that. But this is the video that's very interesting. Wait till you see what the similarities in what is going on here in the United States was going on in Japan. And you'll know why I was saying what I was saying.
This includes both people who cross the US border illegally and those who overstay their visas in the US. But Japan is fundamentally different. As an island nation, you cannot just walk across a border into Japan, right? You either have to fly in or arrive by boat. So the vast majority of Japan's illegal migrants are gaikokujin, or foreign nationals, who initially came on tourist visas, student visas, or work visas legally and then overstayed. As of July 2025, there are approximately 71,000 illegal overstayers in Japan. Over 43,000 of them entered as short-term tourists, meaning they came to Japan for vacation and just never left. Another 10,000 or so were technical interns, people who came through Japan's technical intern training program, working in manufacturing, construction, agriculture, and textiles, and then decided to stay beyond their visa expiration date. Then there are over 7,000 people holding what Japan calls designated activities visas, working holiday visa holders, internship participants, etc.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it just by thinking about it.
Picture, right? So where are all these people from? Vietnam tops the list with over 13,000 people, and then Thailand, South Korea, and China. Now, in terms of the actual percentage, these 71,000 illegal overstayers represent just 0.058% out of Japan's total population of 123 million. That's just a drop in the bucket, less than 1/10 of 1%. Compare that to the 4.6% of unauthorized immigrants in the United States. Japan really does not have an illegal immigration problem. Yet somehow, the current Japanese government is pursuing what may be the most aggressive crackdown on immigration, both illegal and legal, in years. In October 2025, Japan elected its first female prime minister, Sanae Takaichi. But if you thought a historic first female leader moment would bring progressive change to Japan's immigration system, think again. As a leader of Japan's ruling Conservative Party, her entire platform centered around conservative nationalism, return Japan to traditional values, crack down on immigration, strengthen the military, and revive the economy. But what's interesting is that her crackdown isn't just about 71,000 illegal overstayers. It's about all 3.95 million foreign residents living in Japan, most of whom are there legally. But why target legal foreign residents? Now we are getting into a real gray area. Loopholes in the system that appear legal on the surface, but have been systematically exploited for years. You see, in the fiscal year ending March 2025, legal foreign residents pay just 49.7% of the required pension contributions, less than half. When it comes to health insurance premiums, they paid only 63%. Compare that to the overall payment rate in Japan, including Japanese nationals, which sits at 93%. Now, here's where it gets a little complicated, so let me see if I can break this down. Japan has two different pension systems. If you work for a company with 5 or more employees, you're automatically enrolled in the employee's pension and your contributions are automatically deducted from your paycheck every month. 50% comes from your salary, 50% paid by your employer. So there's no way to cheat the system in that case. But many foreign workers, mainly from Vietnam, the Philippines, and Indonesia, who make up nearly a third of all foreign residents, work part-time jobs or for very small businesses with fewer than 5 employees. These companies aren't required to enroll workers in the automatic system. Instead, workers are supposed to enroll themselves in the national pension and pay a bill that arrives in the mail every month. The problem is, some don't understand the Japanese language bill. Some move around frequently, so the bills get lost in the mail. Some deliberately ignore the bills because they need to send money back to their home country. Some figure, I'm leaving Japan in a few years anyway, why should I pay into a pension I will never be able to collect? To make matters worse, some small to medium-sized businesses, even those legally required to enroll workers in the employee's pension, deliberately misclassify foreign workers as independent contractors to avoid the requirement. Why? Because if workers are classified as independent contractors, the employer doesn't have to pay 50% of the pension contribution. And the worker, who now has to pay the full pension contribution themselves, often never does. Now, on top of all that, add Japan's outdated paper-based system to the mix. Japan still operates largely on cash, and many small to medium-sized businesses, particularly in construction, agriculture, and food services, pay foreign workers in cash under the table. No digital paper trail, no automatic tax withholding, no record for immigration authorities to check. You get paid cash, you send that cash home to Vietnam or the Philippines, and suddenly there is no record you ever earned.
So in a lot of cases, roofing companies, I've seen it. They'll pay employees under the table, and they'll group together in an apartment, and there'll be 6 full-grown men living in an apartment, in a 2-bedroom apartment, getting paid cash, not contributing. Then when they get hurt, they go to the financial, they go to the emergency room. Then they don't pay that bill because they have no insurance. So then that puts a burden on the United States taxpayer. Do you see where this goes? Do you see how this snowball effect happens? Whenever, yes. So when these situations happen, it is a big problem. It is what contributes to your enormous healthcare bills, your enormous food bills. All of it feeds in. It's one system. Social Security, all these things. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Looking for, I apologize. Amen to that. I'm sorry, looking for God. Yes, you're right. She. I apologize. So I agree with that wholeheartedly. God's love. Amen to that. So we got to learn when, where, and how, and you got to know how it works. If you don't know how it works and you're talking about it, that's like you telling a mechanic how to fix a car. You don't even know what you're talking about. How are you going to tell them how to fix it? Unless you know what you're talking about, unless you've done the study, really looked into it, you really shouldn't be saying too much about it. Because you may say something that's not true. So that there's more to it than what they paint. And that's the whole reason why I wanted to do this. And you just see it from Japan right here. People are using a system, taking advantage of it over there. And then the history, you have the history of, I have studied multiple histories on, I don't know everything, but I've done my research on history on lots of different areas, lots of different groups from the Caribbean to, to over in China, to over in Japan, to Rome and the United States. I've done a lot of research on history, and that's why I come up with these. So history, I don't know all history. There's more things I will learn. So when you look at history, you look at depending on what time frame, right? How far back do we want to go? We want to go to 1400 in the Caribbean. You have the conquistadors. Columbus came over, took advantage of them, exploited them. Then they shifted over to Mexico as well. There, the southern part of the United States. They were there before the Northern European was there. The Vikings were here before Columbus was here. They actually discovered, I say discovered as in the European discovered, because they didn't know about it. They discovered it before Christopher Columbus. You have the history of Italy, northern Sicily. You have Rome in Africa. You have where Rome occupied a vast majority of North Africa at one point in time, when you're talking before. And then there's lots of different histories. You have where Africa sold slaves to the European. Nobody talks about that. That was the vast majority. It wasn't they went over, just went into places and like kidnapped them. No, their own people sold them. That's the true history about it. So both parties were evil, right? The African for selling the people and the white European for purchasing the people and doing what they did to it. Both were equally evil. Then you look at now. There's so many different areas you can tackle, but I want to get into the laws of it, the reason the laws are there, and we can go from there.
Earn that income in Japan in the first place. This means that in practice, the actual compliance rate for pension and health insurance contributions is probably even lower than the official 49.7 and 63% figures. The result is that Japanese taxpayers pretty much end up subsidizing a healthcare and pension system that part-time and small company foreign workers are underpaying into. The pension system is already strained by an aging population, and underpaying foreign residents only accelerates the problem. And ordinary Japanese citizens see this and think, wait a minute, we're following the rules. Why aren't they? That's the resentment the new Takaichi administration is tapping into. And starting in 2027, that's why her new policy will revoke visas for unpaid insurance and pension contributions. No payment, no visa renewal. Your permanent residency can be revoked too, depending on your payment history. For many Japanese voters, it finally feels like someone is making foreign residents play by the same rule as everyone else. Then there is the business manager visa issue that just became a hot button topic in local Japanese media. As of 2024, over 41,000 foreign nationals held what is called the business manager visa, which is a long-term visa designed for foreign entrepreneurs and investors who want to start or manage a business in Japan. Over half, about 21,000, were Chinese nationals. The process to get this visa is, or I should say used to be, quite simple if you have the money. You could register a company with 5 million yen, roughly 34,000 US dollars in capital, submit basic paperwork claiming you're planning to run a legitimate business, and get approved for a 5-year residency visa that's renewable. Now, once you have that visa, you can even access Japan's healthcare system for yourself and your family members. The problem is that the vast majority of these business visa holders aren't running real businesses at all. According to Japan's Immigration Services Agency, when they scrutinized 300 suspicious applications, 90% had no genuine business activities in Japan. They were essentially shell or paper companies with minimal or zero operations. Some registered as minbaku, short-term rental businesses like Airbnb, but never actually rented anything out. And these shell companies are buying up properties like crazy.
Do you really want to make your holiday special? Tanzania.
2024, foreign investors poured 940 billion yen, or roughly $6.4 billion, into Tokyo real estate alone. This is one reason Tokyo's property prices have skyrocketed 64% in just 4 years. Foreign capital, particularly Chinese capital, is driving much of this surge. In the most prestigious neighborhoods like Minato, Shibuya, and Chiyoda, foreign buyers account for 20 to 40% of all new apartment purchases. Some individual developers report that over 50% of their luxury condo buyers are foreign. This is because in Japan, there are no restrictions on the percentage of foreign ownership like in China or Thailand. In fact, Japan is one of the most foreigner-friendly real estate markets in Asia. You don't even need to live in Japan or have residency to buy property, something almost unthinkable in neighboring countries. Now, these shell companies should be paying some taxes in Japan in theory, like annual property taxes and capital gains taxes when they eventually sell. But because many of them structure their investments through offshore corporate entities, they can legally extract profits back to China through clever structuring and loopholes, while contributing pretty much nothing to the local economy or community. Basically, much of the wealth being created simply leaves Japan, while property prices remain crazy high. Imagine what this does to young Japanese workers and families in Tokyo who are completely priced out of their own neighborhoods. This is why the promise of crackdown by the Takaichi administration on foreign business visa holders and foreign land purchases resonated.
So this is the implications of if things are taken advantage of, what it does for the people in that country, which the governments of the country are supposed to look out for their people's. That's their jobs, look out for their people. Their job is not to look out for everybody else's, right? That's what their government is for. So when our government doesn't look out for us, which in many cases it doesn't, we can go down that rabbit hole as well as different areas. I could totally agree with where the government is just awful. But for the sake of this topic, this is why illegal and legal are two different terms. Come here legally, I hope you come and you prosper and you do very well. You come here illegally, honestly, you can get asylum if you need asylum. I'm not talking about asylum seekers. I'm going to go back there because I know people are going to try to say, oh, what about asylum? Yep, I've been saying it throughout the whole show. Asylum seekers, true asylum seekers are different. Ones who manipulate, different story. There's cases where people have used a child saying it's their child and they're leaving for threat and they're really not. Like, this is what those are the ones that I'm talking about. So when we get into that, this is the reason why. This is the reason why things happen the way they happen. And this is what happens when people take advantage of the system. It's the same thing with the welfare. When people take advantage of the welfare, it puts a strain on the working everyday person. It cuts into your retirements. It does so much damage. And people only want to focus on the ones that need it, but then they don't realize that what they're hearing is addressing the ones that need it, taking care of them, and not the ones that don't need it. So we have to really look into it when we hear a thing. Is it really what's being portrayed? What are they talking about? Which people are they talking about? When you hear the word illegal, you should not get upset. If you hear the word legal, well, then you can get upset. Because if they're legally here, they've done it right. They do it the right way. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you do it the wrong way and you end up taking advantage of the American people, yeah, I got a problem with that. I got a problem with that. I wouldn't go to your country and do that. I wouldn't take advantage of your people. You got people that are struggling in this country. And there's many contributing factors, and this is one of them. If you're providing health care for people that aren't even supposed to be here, and you're not going to take care of your own people, what kind of sense does that make? That's like feeding your neighbor's child and starving your own. It doesn't make any sense. So when we look at these things, let's do our due diligence, and let's really understand the matter, and let's compare it. Let's stop not only looking at, we can always look at ways to improve. There's no maybe so about it. But we also have to look at the good in the situations as not just the negative. If we hyper focus on the negative, that can destroy us. When we focus on the positive in a situation and then formulate ideas to alleviate the negative, we can then begin to do a better job as people in general. And of course, looking for God. There's never any bad blood. Never. No. You're welcome, and I value your opinion. I would like to hear more from you. So feel free. I don't. If I disagree, I said it earlier. That's fine. I can disagree, and you can disagree, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just what it is. That's our opinion on the matter. But dialogue is important. When you don't have the dialogue, nobody can grow. So, we got to remember these things. Remember these things when you hear something. Okay, why did this happen? It's not as just, oh, it's this. No. Why did it happen? What is the reason behind it? And I go back to the economics because everybody says, oh, well, the rich, okay, how did they get there? What did they do? Did they follow the laws? I'm sure in cases they broke the laws. And if they did break the laws, they should be held accountable within the law. It doesn't change. But to say that you're poor because of your skin color or you've had a bad life because of your skin color is crazy. This is not 1800. This is 2025. Come on. And I give this example moreover. Italian Americans came over. They were treated less favorable. People wouldn't rent to them because they were Italian. They had to basically start Little Italy for themselves, right? You have the so what happened was they were great masonry. And I use this because in this area, a lot of the businesses that are masonry, building walls, foundations, there's a lot, patios, walkways, and things like that. Italians, right? A lot of Italians did that. My grandfather worked for Rosenfeld Concrete, used to drive the concrete truck. He was an Italian. But then as they grew in their profession, they created businesses. And now they're employing the next generation of immigrants that have come in. So the system is good when it's done right, because then opportunity can come for others. So then what you see now is you see a lot of the Brazilians that are in the masonry. They're into all the building the walls, and they do phenomenal work. And they're hard workers and they're good people. Soon they'll own businesses. And then a new group will come in. It's the same thing with the South Americans and Central Americans, right? A lot of them came over, got into the roofing. Now they own businesses. Took a few decades. Now they're owning roofing businesses and they're thriving. But when you do it the right way, the opportunity is going to be there for you. And then a new group will come in. And it will continue to do that, but there will be prosperity for everybody. See, everybody has to start at the bottom and they have to work their way to the top. Obviously, we know the exceptions and not the rule. The exceptions are people who are born into wealth. That does happen. But you can't make the exception the rule. That's the exception. The rule is the vast majority, 97 to 98% of us, are starting at the bottom, mastering our craft, working our way up, and doing better for ourselves and our families. That's how it works. That's the way it's supposed to work. So when you have young and a lot of things play into there's a lot of variables into why it's unaffordable. It's not just illegal immigration. There's all different types of reasons why the economy is the way it is. That's a small fraction of it. When the welfare is from the people that don't need it is far worse. The ones that are generational, sucking off the system and getting free healthcare and free housing, that's been a strain far greater than illegal immigration, in my opinion. Those people should be taken off. And they should go to work, because they're putting a burden on everybody else and driving the cost of healthcare and food up, because there's only so much taxpayers. If the welfare increases more and more, that means there's less people putting into the system. If there's less people putting into the system, it means there's less money to go around, which means more inflation, higher cost of living. That's what it means. Because guess what? The supply can't meet the demand. Basic economics 101. You have a certain amount of money that you collect a year. If you are spending more than that, you are causing inflation. You are causing the taxpayer's burden. You are causing the rise in prices of everything. In a nutshell, that's the problem. But for the sake of this show, when you look at it from legal standpoint, we saw the United States, we saw Mexico, we saw Dominican Republic, we saw Switzerland, and now we saw Japan. 5 different countries. Some things are the same, some things are more extreme. Japan and Switzerland are by far the most extreme. Dominican Republic with the the legal citizen part is wild. But as far as entering, they all follow the same rules. They all have the same system. You have multiple ways to come in. Tourists don't need visas. You have work, school, visas, temporary, and then you have residency. Then you have citizenship, right? And they all have the same. They all have the same. It's the exact same. So we all have the same thing, but in between, there's subtle differences, right? And that goes based upon the country. And that country has a different burden to face than the next. For instance, if you want to look at it, Japan is a smaller land mass. Geographically, they can't support as many. So that makes sense. You have the United States, which has a larger land mass, so it can support land-wise more. Makes sense. Canada, Mexico, larger land masses, right? You go to China, larger land mass. Russia, larger land mass. So those places can support, at least geographically, more migrants. Whereas if you cram them into the UK, Spain, Japan, Thailand, those are smaller countries. It would be harder for them. So this is why we have to look at it from all aspects of immigration in itself, right? Sometimes when we're seeking the facts, let's lean to facts and not our emotions more so. Let's lean to what's there. What are we seeing? What do we know about it? That your feelings will come in and you'll have empathy for certain situations where it's like you wish you could help, but you can't. Perfectly fine. That's normal. That's a good thing. But when it comes to the solutions for the vast majority, you have to look at the majority and not the minority. You have to look at the majority of, you got to look at everybody. How does this affect everybody? And that's a tough thing. And a lot of people don't understand that. It's not as easy as you think to run a nation. There's so many working parts. If one working part doesn't succeed, that can cause a big problem. So we have a big problem with, and different administrations have different feelings on the whole immigration thing. One says, let everybody over. Another says, no, we got to tighten it up. If we can find the balance in a good way to let the ones that need to come in, and those who don't let them in, that's perfect. And what I mean by don't let them in, it's a broad statement. I mean the ones that aren't going to contribute, who aren't looking to better to make anything. They're just looking to, because in all reality, people come in and suck off the system, send their money back home, and then go home. They do that. And so when you're running a country, yeah, I'm glad they redid it as well, because if you're an able-bodied worker, you should work. Work your way like everybody else did. Think about that. This person says, I don't have to work hard. You just got to pay for my bills. Whereas you're struggling to feed your family and you got to feed theirs. How does that make sense? How is that right for you? That's what I mean. You got to look at it from both sides of the fence here. You got to look at it from the one who's footing the bill to the one who's taking advantage of it. Right? If you're able to work, I remember when I was 14, 15 years old, I walked to fill out applications. I took, after school, I walked, what was it like? 4 to 5 miles, just filling out applications to work. If a 14, 15-year-old can do it, why can't a grown person do it? Who's able? I mean, come on. I went to school, then did it. I used to go to school and work. And play sports. I went to school, went home, worked at a gas station, walked to the gas station, walked home, which was across town. Like I said, 4 miles there and back, walking. After going to school, then working, then walking home. If a 14-year-old can do that, and when I was 15, why can't a grown man or a grown woman? Make that make sense. We got to stop making excuses for ourselves. That's the harsh reality. Far too many people make excuses for themselves, fall into victim mentality, and that's your down. That's it's killing you. It's stopping you from doing well. And God don't like idle hands. So think about that. God says you don't work, you don't eat. He also says the poor you have as you always, but he wasn't saying the ones that were taking advantage of the system. He's saying the ones obviously that can't, right? He's not talking about everybody that doesn't want to work. That's not what the Lord Jesus was talking about. And we all know that. Because then later on, you don't work, you don't eat. Figure that one out. How you make that mesh scripturally? It's talking about the ones that are able. If you don't work, you ain't eating. The ones that can't, yeah, the poor you'll have what you always. That's why you take care of them. And that's another thing. The more that don't work that can, take from the ones that can't. And how is that right to them that can't work? They're facing a burden they shouldn't. They should be getting the help. The elderly that can't work, that burden's on them now because people are taking advantage of it that can work. This is what I'm saying. Put it in right perspective. Stop being lazy bums. Get out there. If you can work, do it. If you can't, you got ailments, sicknesses, you got things prohibiting you, and you just physically can't, fine. Yes, you should be taken care of. Taxpayers should definitely, yes, that's what taxes are for. Absolutely. But the ones that can, no, that's not for you. People collecting Social Security for depression. I mean, come on, really? My mother had four boys. I don't know. She never missed work. She never went on vacation. I had a friend growing up. His mother worked sometimes 24-hour shifts as a CNA, 7 days a week, every year, all year. No vacations I knew him for 15 years. How is that fair to her? How is that right for her? Come on. Within reason, everybody, within reason. So this immigration is the same way, within reason. I mean, you can't let, you can have hey, everybody just come on in. Don't worry about it. Yeah, come on in. That's crazy talk. That's crazy talk. That's the height of stupidity. You have to look out. They have to look out for the people. And can they do a better job in many areas? Absolutely. But as far as this legality of the immigration laws, they have them there for a reason. I don't know all of the details, but I do know they're there for a reason, and it makes sense. There's only so many people that can go through the process with the people, so it takes time. You can't just snap your fingers and it's there. It takes time to do it right. So unfortunately, people have to wait sometimes. And with so many people, you're asking somebody to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's not right for them either. They're doing their job as best they can, and they're working themselves. You know, you got to look at everybody, not just one group. You have to look at the whole picture. There's so many working parts to immigration that people don't even know. There's parts that I still don't even know. So let's slow down on this conversation of every immigrant should be put in. And every immigrant, remember, there's legal and illegal. Legal and illegal. If they're talking about illegal, there's no debate. There's no argument. If you're talking illegal, okay, you got to fight. You got a right to fight that, absolutely, because they did it legally, and they deserve to be here. So, but this is where people who take advantage of it make it worse for those behind them, right? It's like at your job, right? You got free roam for a while. They're not giving you a lot of flack. You're following the rules. Things are peaceful. Then you get a couple knuckleheads that mess it up, and now they take something away from you because a couple knuckleheads. Is that fair to you? No, because you are abiding by the rules, but you're facing the punishment now. This is what I'm saying. You got to think. It's bigger than one person. You got to look at all the people involved. How is this affecting everybody? It's not as easy as everybody makes it seem. It's really not. Do our politicians really care? Yeah, I'll question that. Of course, I'll question that. Too much information that I've learned tells me not to question. Tells me that I must question that. Doesn't, you know? But and politicians are, you know, professional liars. They just tell you what you want to hear. You know, they're smooth. They're snake oil salesmen. They're slick talkers. You know, they're hustlers. So they got slick silver tongues. So, you know, everything they say, no, most of it's lies. Most of it they're not going to do, right? It's a good selling point. They're great salesmen, you know. So this is what we got to think of. So if anybody has any more comments, any questions, anybody wants to come on up and, you know, have a conversation on the matter, you're more than welcome. But let me know what you guys think about the videos and the information that was presented. If you have any questions, if you want to go back to something, let me know. And we can go over it again. If you didn't catch something, let me know. We can go back over a few things. Want to try to make this available for you guys, and make it about you as well, because that's what it is. The show is for you guys, to help you guys see it from a different standpoint, different view, different with a little more information, right? Because knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. So if you have the knowledge and understanding of a matter, it can help you understand it. You can be like, that makes sense. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. You know what? While we're here, I kind of want to. I watched a short video of Thomas Sowell that I thought, let me know if you'd like to do a conversation on this, because I think it would really hit home with a lot of people in general. Yes, they do. That's really the whole point of why I was doing this episode, to kind of shut down the whole narrative that if you are against illegal immigration, you're not a racist. Doesn't make you a racist at all. Just means you care about your children and your neighbors that you live in and the area you live in. But this here is Thomas Sowell, and it's race and economics. It kind of really gets to the question that Sister Looking for God was talking about, and see if let me know if you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, if you have disagreements with it, your comments and your opinions are more than welcome, and there's no animosity whatsoever. So,
are you saying that in a culturally pluralistic society such as America, are you saying that the variable in success or lack of success is the culture of the particular group?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I don't ask what is the cause of poverty. Everybody is born poor and ignorant. The question is, what factors allow some groups to get from that position?
you cite 6 groups in 2 categories. You cite Jews, Chinese, and Japanese as overachieving groups. You cite blacks, Puerto Ricans, and Mexicans as underachieving groups. Now, what are you describing there? What have you identified there as a variable?
Oh, income. Well, the achievement is measured in terms of income and occupation. That is economic achievement. Obviously, there are other kinds of things that make up life. But, and I wouldn't want to stigmatize groups as permanently underachievers. If you look at generation by generation, you find incredible changes. The black population especially. The change in occupations of blacks between the 1920s and the 1950s is just phenomenal. So that what we're watching are people who, for cultural reasons and historical reasons, begin behind a certain level and have not closed the gap. It's like a relay race. You don't say that the runner is a bad runner because he hasn't closed the gap when he started 50 yards behind. If he's 40 yards behind now, we don't call him a failure. We say he's made up 10 yards.
Well, I'm sure you do know the conventional wisdom in America is that every immigrant group to this country, with the exception of blacks, has closed the gap.
That's not really true. It depends upon what time frame you're talking about and how you define the groups. The Chinese who've come here from Hong Kong and other parts of China since the Second World War are in dire poverty in many parts of Chinatowns of New York, of San Francisco, Los Angeles, in many cases far worse off than the average black. So that isn't true that every group has done this. Blacks started much further behind. I don't think people realize how much further behind blacks started and how much progress has been made. There's a distinguished economic historian, Robert Higgs, who has said that for blacks to go from being completely illiterate in the middle of the 19th century to being 1/2 literate and by 1900 is just an amazing achievement in the history of the world, that you very seldom find that kind of change that quickly. So it depends on what you're holding as your standard.
The standard is that blacks haven't caught up with whites.
Whites haven't stood still. Blacks who have education and who have experience have been moving up on whites and in some cases overtaking whites. If you look at blacks who have not finished high school, blacks who come from background of families that are broken and so forth, they are falling further and further behind, not only further behind the population in general, but further behind whites with the same disadvantages.
What do you blame for that? You're not blaming middle-class blacks who are beneficiaries of affirmative action, are you?
I'm blaming the incentives created by affirmative action, because when it comes to the incentives that are created, the businessman is going to try to protect himself whatever way he can. And that means hiring those blacks who are overqualified, who have a long track record and so on. And that's what all the data show, that the more, for example, black couples where the husband and wife are both college educated now make more money than white couples where the husband and wife are both educated. But the black female-headed family has lost real income in absolute terms over the past several years and has fallen further behind white female-headed families. So the very opposite trends are going on at the same time. And you can't argue this because of blackness or racism, because both of them are black people. One group is shooting way ahead, one is falling further and further behind. And a large part of that reason, I believe, and the data seem to suggest, is because the incentives created by affirmative action and similar kinds of programs just make it too dangerous to take a chance. I don't ask what is the cause of poverty. Everybody is born poor and ignorant. The question is, what factors allow some groups to get from that position? Blacks, first of all, started further back and are coming forward. And at this point, there simply has not been the pattern of entrepreneurship in the black population. That's been true of other groups, such as the Irish, for example. The Irish are doing quite well today, but they're not doing well in entrepreneurial occupations. They're in the law, they're in the church, they're in this, they're in that. And on the bottom line is they're doing better than the average American, but they're not doing it in those particular fields. Every group succeeds in some particular area. Blacks who win Nobel Prizes don't win them in the same fields that the Chinese win Nobel Prizes in.
You identified human capital in your book, and you say, now you tell me if I'm not paraphrasing you correctly, you say the Chinese succeed because they outwork everyone else.
Oh, yes.
Is it that simple?
In a sense, yes. That if you put in enormous amounts of work, you're going to have a tremendous advantage over people who don't. A study was done in San Francisco schools to show Asians, blacks, whites, Hispanics, and how they score in various fields, and mathematics in particular. And there were vast differences, for example, between the Asians and blacks in terms of how many got high math grades. What struck me was that for both the Asians and the Africans, the number of hours that you spent working or doing homework in math was almost identical with the same percentage who got high grades in math. So that whether you are black or Chinese, if you spend an awful lot of time on the math, you're going to be doing better than the person who's not. And although there were great disparities, the disparities were differences in how much time you spend on math homework.
Well, then conversely, Dr. Sowell, are you not saying that groups who do not overachieve are groups who don't work hard enough?
Sometimes, but sometimes the government itself makes it impossible or very difficult for groups to work hard enough. The minimum wage law is one classic example. Occupational licensing laws are another. Insofar as the school system fails, those groups that don't have an independent educational tradition are lost. Whereas if you have that independent tradition, even if you go to a bad school, if the parents can help you, if you get the maximum that you possibly can from the books and so on, you still may achieve quite a lot. So it's a combination. It is the culture, but at the same time, insofar as a society puts barriers, particularly the government, which has tremendous power, and supplies education and other kinds of things. Insofar as they do that, they make it tougher for you to do it.
Well, do you suspect that you may be guilty of de-emphasizing the effects of racism in that pattern?
There's always, everything is a possibility. But as I look at the data, I don't find any correlation between the degree of racism and the degree to which groups advance. That is, if you look at the history of the Chinese in Southeast Asia, the hostility they have encountered there will compare with any hostility blacks have encountered here. There have been a number of occasions in the history of Southeast Asia where the number of Chinese killed in a few days exceeded all the blacks lynched in the history of the United States. So they are enormously hated.
What about Jews?
The Jews, of course, the same thing has happened with the Jews numerous times. Thousands killed here, thousands killed there. And of course, under the Nazis, millions killed. The groups, incidentally, which have suffered the most violence, and I use that as one index of group hostility or racism, those groups have typically been middleman minorities. The Chinese, the Jews, the Armenians, the Igbos in Nigeria, 30,000 of those were killed in massacres just within our time. And yet I don't find any correlation in the long run between the economics and the political hostility. One of the things that surprised me was how little correlation there was between acculturation and achievement.
Would you define that for us?
But that is taking on the culture of the surrounding society. That the Chinese, for example, in Southeast Asia, in many cases will live for generations there, maintaining their own culture, their own language. The Germans have done this in Russia and various parts of South America, other parts of the world. And yet, when we look at groups like Hispanics, those Hispanics who don't learn English are far behind those Hispanics who do in terms of incomes and occupations. And what I finally got out of all of that was that if you're working for someone else, then you must know the culture of that society. If you're able to set up your own farms, your own businesses, be in independent professions, it doesn't really matter that much. But if you have to go out and work for someone else, then you must know his language, you must know how his culture operates in order for you to operate in it.
What else did you find out about the Hispanic culture?
That it was not like the culture, for example, of the Germans, that in Hispanic countries, various other groups such as Germans in Latin America have disproportionately contributed to the industrialization of these countries. The British have done so also. That in a number of countries of Latin America, the Germans, the British, other groups like that, actually dominate many of the industrial enterprises of those countries. It also argues against the case of what society does. Clearly in a Hispanic society, there is not discrimination against Hispanics. And so therefore you cannot explain why Jews, Germans, and other groups, Japanese in parts of Latin America, have done better than the native Hispanic peoples of those countries.
In terms of education of blacks in the United States, you point out that over 50% of the PhDs awarded to blacks is in education. And you don't seem to think much of a PhD in education.
It's not a question of what I think, it's a question of what the marketplace thinks. And there's not much money in that. So if you're going to compare blacks and whites who have PhDs, you have to realize you're talking about apples and oranges. If you're going to compare blacks and Asians with PhDs, you're really talking about apples and oranges. Since the Asian PhDs will be disproportionately in math, science, technology, and fields like that. So that I think that's a rational choice to some extent. Insofar as people have not had the same educational background, they must do what they can do, not what they would like to do. What's encouraging to me is that second generation blacks in college, that is blacks whose parents went to college before them, are majoring in mathematical and other such areas to almost exactly the same extent as the general society. So again, as you break these numbers down, there is a sign of progress, but there's very little sign of any kind of miracle taking place.
What do you mean miracle?
That is, there are people who will talk in terms of what the proportion of blacks are who earn so much or are represented in various occupations. You're not going to be an engineer unless you've got an engineering degree. And if blacks' degrees are in education, then we don't expect to find blacks represented in engineering in proportion to blacks in the society.
So that's an example in which our cultural choice determines our income, and our income is partly due to the income gap between blacks and whites. Is that part of it?
Yes, yes. But that's true not only with blacks and whites, it's true right across the board. The difference between Asians and Hispanics, for example, at the PhD level and earlier, is slightly greater than that between blacks and Asians, or certainly greater than that between blacks and whites. So the black-white difference that we're always comparing is not at all unique. The income difference between Japanese Americans and Puerto Ricans is higher than that between blacks and whites. And yet if you explain the black-white difference in terms of the unique history of blacks, you're left out on the limb wondering, well, then why then the Japanese exceed the Puerto Ricans by so much when their history is absolutely different from either of those two groups.
What about the role of politics in the economic future of blacks in this country?
Again, I would draw upon the experience of other countries and other groups. I can't think of a single group anywhere in the world that has risen from poverty to affluence through politics. There are any number of groups that have risen from poverty to affluence through almost every other conceivable means. When I look at the groups that have had spectacular rises, like the Jews or the Chinese, they are almost invariably groups that stayed away from politics. And they usually stayed away until after they became affluent. Some of them could then afford to go into politics. But that was not the mechanism by which they got where they are.
What was the mechanism?
Basically work, skills, saving.
Now, you're saying then that the train in the black community, in terms of voter registration and political power, political empowerment, is on the wrong track.
I think that if what you expect out of that is economic advancement for the mass of black people. Now, if all that you're looking for is some advancement on the part of the leaders, or if what you're looking for is something like what happened in the Civil Rights Revolution, where you needed to get the Southern Jim Crow system broken, that was an enormous achievement through politics, as I point out in the book. So it's not that politics can't do anything. It's a question that politics, like everything else, has some things it can do and some things it can't do. And from what I've seen of groups around the world economically, one of the things it seems not to be able to do is raise groups from poverty to affluence. People have discriminated against other people wherever they've had the power to do it, almost everywhere in the world and almost every period of history. Some groups are kept back by this, and some groups, it seems to make no difference whatever. Insofar, for example, as you have entrepreneurial skills, the fact that people didn't hire Jews in the 19th century didn't stop Jews from hiring each other and setting up and dominating industries such as the garment industry or the beginning of the great Hollywood movie studios and other areas of the economy. It is the skills that are crucial, and not the fact that other people are willing or unwilling to hire you.
So I just wanted to play a little bit of that, see if it might help you understand some of the things that are the reality. Politicians making policies will not raise somebody into economic strength. It's going to take that personal individual to put in the work, do what they're good at, what their passion is. If you are passionate about designing clothes and you're good at it, do it. The incomes are going to vary. Doesn't mean you're not successful. It doesn't mean that you're behind. You don't need to do the social things that the people that socially seem to be wanting to do. Do what you're good at. Excel and be the best at what you do, and the rest will take care of itself. We have a bad habit of overlooking that aspect and expecting to start off making giant money. the blood, sweat, and tears is not emphasized anymore. The um um so okay, so all right, so let me ask you a question. All right, so you said, so I just want to play a little bit. I do agree that blacks do not have economic power, which we do need. We did have it, but it was taken away from us. So now we don't have it, are passionate. Okay, all right. So where and what blacks are you talking about? What era are you talking about? Because if you talk about the era now, there's many blacks who are extremely economically sound. They have political pull and political power. They have influence. They have lots of things. So, which area are you talking about? Are you talking during slavery? Then, if you talk about during slavery, you have to go back to the origins of in Africa where they sold their own people. And you have to look at Africa as a whole. Many African nations are actually very rich and powerful, and they are self-sufficient, very rich in resources, in knowledge, and in the ability to create. Basically, it depends on what you're good at. My advice to you looking for God is whatever you're good at, do it to the best of your God-given ability. Exceed in it, and you will receive your own power over your own. You will receive what you're looking for. When you came out of slavery, yes, but as of that did happen. I agree, but it's gotten extremely better. So you have power. You have that now. That's why you do have it, right? You go back to you're starting to definitely see it now, especially where, I mean, geez, you look at all of the athletes, all of even the artists, the musicians. There's people in other areas that are having generational wealth. You can't expect to come, right? So slavery ended what? Not even about 100 and something years ago, roughly 150 years, we'll say. So it took time, and as Thomas Sowell outlined, it slowly progressed. And he made a valid point. You take people who were not 0% illiterate, and they're 50% illiterate within a short span. That's great progress. Progress starts and it continues. It has to continue, right? So what's going forward now is a product of what happened before. And what happened before is a product of what happened before them. It's steps, right? But you look over in Africa, and Africa, they don't have that problem. You look at Uganda, you look at Nigeria. There's pockets, like every country, yes, but they are powerful, rich, economically successful. They're there. You're talking about this country, unfortunately, due to a mistake made by the African nation and the European nations that partook in that purchase of slaves. That set that specific group behind. I agree. And they faced a lot of turmoil for a couple hundred years, right? And now they're climbing out of it, right? You take then you take, other groups, right? The Chinese were there during the gold rush. So the fact about the gold rush in the mid to late 1800s, when the gold rush happened, actually I think it was 1849, because that's why the football team is called the 49ers. So in 1849, probably a little before that, the Chinese came over, and them and the blacks were forced to go in with the dynamite and blow it up to find the gold, right? And they worked the railroads. So the Chinese did that as well. And like you mentioned, certain pockets have their poverty and some don't, right? It's not a whole. Black people as a whole are not all impoverished, or not economically powerful, or not generational. No, they are. Not all white people have generational wealth. You have to remember that. I don't come from generational wealth. My family never came from generational wealth from this country. And that's Italian and Scottish, French, and Irish. Never came from generational wealth in this country. So to say that, a little miscued, because some blacks have had generational wealth. This is what I mean. You got to look at who and what you're talking about. Look at the whites. You're talking the billionaires, right? You're talking billionaires and millionaires. Well, there's a lot of millionaires that are blacks. A lot of their children grew up in generational wealth. And it didn't start in the 1990s or the 1980s. It started before that. So certain pockets were impoverished and certain thrived. That goes to the people who stood up and made it happen, right? Same thing with every race. This is what I mean. That constrains your mind to never accomplishing anything when you restrict it. And look at that. Where are we now? Why don't we ever focus on where we are now and where we're heading, right? We're so focused on resurrecting a past evil versus, all right, what can we learn from this? You can look at it, but take the parts. There's good parts to how some of them overcame, right? It shows strength, resiliency. It shows hope. It shows a lot of what they overcame. This goes back to my last live, being thankful. When you go back to what those who paid their dues, for instance, my Italian side of the family, we weren't given anything when when they came over. They had to work. Like I said, my grandfather drove a concrete truck. He worked for Roosevelt Concrete. Not rich by any stretch of the imagination. Did not come from generational wealth. My mother is doing a little better. It takes, there has to be generations of increase, right? My mother's not rich. I don't have generation. I didn't inherit anything. I don't have a fat bank account. So you really got to stop it. That's what I mean. You really got to stop and think about that when you're talking about that. Selective people, goes back to my comment earlier. Very few people are rich. There's fewer rich people than poor and middle class, and they all come from the same. There's fewer generational wealth than there are generational. So there's more poor white people than there are generationally wealthy white people. Probably by a good 90%. There's more black non-generational wealth than generational wealth black. There's more Latin non-generational wealth than generational wealth. There's more Chinese non-generational wealth than generational wealth. You have to remember that. That unfortunate happened, as you heard, was not even close to what happened to the Jews as far as the massacre, as you heard the stats. So this is not a one-off random thing. There's still slavery going on in Muslim countries for white people, like actual slavery. Should I harp on that? No, I'm not going to harp on that. Is it wrong? Yes. Should somebody do something about it? Yes. This is what I mean. You go down a rabbit hole and you talk about it was wrong. Yes, we've all acknowledged that. Nobody is not acknowledging that. But what do we do now? Forget that. What do we do now? Because that's not going to help you. It's going to create bitterness in you. It's going to create anger versus looking at where you are now, what you have now, and how blessed you are now. You can't harbor that in your heart. That's like me hating all English people for what they did to the Scottish, or bringing that up consistently. What is that going to do for me? I understand the history of the Scottish and the English. I understand that the English, whenever there was a Scottish marriage, what they would do is the lord over that area would have rights to have sex with the wife before the husband could. They tried to breed out the Scottish. I understand that the Scottish were impoverished by the English and lived like peasants and had to pay taxes. I understand that, but me understanding that and continuing to go down that road is not going to help me today. Understanding that the Italian side of my family was discriminated against because they spoke a different language, because they had a different culture, because they had a little flavor, because they were different. What good is that going to do for me today? Where they wouldn't rent anywhere to Italians because they were Italian. When they forced Rocky Marciano to change his name from Rocco Macchiano to Rocky Marciano. When they forced, what is that going to do for me today? Many Italians' names, many of the Irish names were changed from O'Connell to Connell because they were too Irish. So what is that going to do for me today? It's not going to do anything. So that's happened to the Italians in this country. That's happened to the Irish in this country. That's happened to the Chinese in this country. That's happened to Germans in this country. See, when you look at history of a country, you got to look at all ethnic groups. All of them were inferior at one point to the English settler. The Scottish were looked at as inferior, so much that the Scottish went into the Midwest, and they actually had a Declaration of Independence before the United States did. They settled in the Midwest. They said, I'm not being a part of this, I'm leaving. They left. They were frowned upon. They were white-skinned. They were frowned upon. The Irish, white-skinned, frowned upon. This is what I mean. Every ethnicity that's come over in this country has faced some sort of barrier, but they've overcome. What are we doing now? This is the problem. They're bringing it up like it exists today. It doesn't exist today. Sure, there's areas where there may be still some racist people, and it goes both ways. Did you know that statistically there's more black on white crimes than white on black crimes? Statistically. What do you say about that? There's more black on black crimes than white on black crimes. What do you say about that? Let's address those issues rather than go back to Jim Crow and before. What do we do now? Would be the question that I ask. Because every race under the sun can do that. From the Chinese, when the Japanese came over to China and took over China and enslaved the Chinese in the 1900s, took their properties from them, made them work in coal mines and things like that, feeding them just tiny bits of food a day. What do you say about that? Or how about the Southeast Asians that were kept in poverty by the Chinese and the Japanese? Or right now, North Korea, how their people don't have any freedom. Right? How about that? That goes on today. And these other ones are more recent. What do we say about that? Should we go back to that and dwell on that, or should we move forward and focus on how we can do better now? I've given you multiple options. Go research them yourselves. During World War I, that time, the Japanese Empire went into China and took over the land, and it went under Japanese rule, which is why there's a feud between China and Japan. Whenever you talk, it's like when you have Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, they have that natural, or Mexicans and the Caribbeans, they have that I wouldn't say it's not a hatred, but it's that inner battle, right? You have Italy and Sicily. You know, if you call an Italian a Sicilian, he gets offended. Or if you call a Sicilian an Italian, they get offended. A Japanese and a Chinese, there's that feud. But what we need to do is break those feuds and let those pasts be gone. Remember them in a sense of what not to do, but don't harbor that anger and hatred and malice in it. And that's what I hear when I hear people rising up acting like as if they're still enslaved and impoverished. No, you're not. You have freedoms. You have the same time. You have the same rules that apply to you. What do you do with it? We're past that. We're not there anymore. We don't need to live there. We can revisit it and remember on where let's revisit and remember how wonderful it was that they overcame it. Let's focus on that. How wonderful it was to see many Black Americans rise up, right? They rise up and they've become so much better in this country. And they've come leaps and bounds. Let's celebrate their success. Let's celebrate the wonderful things that they provide for each other, for this country, the wonderful things. Let's celebrate that. Let's be thankful for that, rather than harbor on that. And I always hear this inner frustration. If you didn't experience that, you're not living in it. Right? So we got to remember that. There's so much that's been overcome. Let's focus on the good of it and how how it's better every day for a Black American or a Hispanic American, how much better it is today, how many success stories there have been. You know, it's only in the United States that they do that. Because everywhere else, you bring that over there, they don't want to hear it. So let's focus on the good that we have now. That happened, but I'm not going to live in the past. There's so many different variables into why people succeed or don't. And the least one is because they're Black or Hispanic or white. That's the least. The real reason someone prospers is because they master what they're doing. They become irreplaceable and or start businesses. And there's many Black businesses. Man, there's a lot of Latin businesses in my city alone. So they're doing well. There's Dominican spots. There's Puerto Rican spots. There's lots. So we're not there. There's actually African food spots here too. Nigerian. There's one that's maybe a 2 to 3 minute drive from where I live. They have their own markets. They have their own. They have their own. What are those places where you can get stuff from the country? They're trading places and things like that. It's beautiful to see these people coming up out of that, thriving and succeeding. That's much better for me to think about and focus on, because it's not nowhere near. But my point is to show that it's not as bad right now as people are making out to be. Let me be straightforward. Do things happen? Yes, they do. But that's everywhere. It's not where it was. It's not even close. It's not even remotely close. Because if that was the case, you wouldn't be able to go in the same bathroom as I would. Right? I mean, come on. Let's be real. You wouldn't be able to make money if that was the case, if we're living there. You wouldn't be able to go to school at a college if that was the case. There's so many that do and have. And there's lots and lots and lots and lots of. I mean, Michael Jordan's a billionaire. He's a billionaire. You have many millionaires. You have many success stories. So, but economics is not tied to race. Economics is tied by supply and demand. If what you have is what they need, they will buy it from you. If you have the qualifications, they will hire you. So it's business. It doesn't make sense from a business perspective to not hire someone because of the color of their skin if they're qualified. It does no service to a business whatsoever. It hurts the business. Because if there's a black man or a black woman that's more qualified than a white man or white woman, they're going to hire that black man or black woman, because it's a business. They're there to make money. They're not there for social justice. They're there to make money. And he does a fascinating, check it out. He does a fascinating breakdown on how affirmative action has destroyed more black people's lives than how it's destroyed many in the school, because they have to meet a certain quota in certain schools, and a lot of these black people are put in there. They're very smart, but they're not that school level smart, and they put them in there, and then they set them up for failure and debt. So what do you say about something like that, where because an Ivy League school has to meet a certain criteria, there's a certain SAT score that needs, and a regiment needs to be able to be handled, and you put somebody that can't handle it in that realm or in that classroom, they're going to fail, and you've thus failed them, and you've created massive debt for them. So there's so many different variables to why things happen, right? They're smart. They should be in a college, just not that college, because they don't meet the requirements. If you don't meet the requirements, you don't have a fireman be a fireman because he's white. You have him be a fireman because he meets the requirements. That's the best practice you could have. What affirmative action did was forced certain ones that didn't in there. In some cases, not all cases. Some areas, I'm sure there was some pockets where it was helpful. I can't say it wasn't absolutely a disastrous thing, but for the vast majority, it made business harder, and it made qualified people lose jobs. Right? What do you say to that part of it? Like, we always talk about one part, but then the other part to the other person that's qualified that doesn't get the job, and the one that wasn't qualified gets it. Like, what do you say to that? So, something to think on, right? This is what I mean, the whole picture. not just one group, but whole picture. How is it helpful for the vast majority? That's why running a country is very difficult. I wouldn't want that job. That's extremely difficult. But I love that you've got these questions and this. It's amazing, and keep it coming. I'm thankful for it. I'm glad that you're participating. What did you think about the immigration part about it? I'd be curious about that. What did you think about the different laws and things in different countries? What did you think about that? Did you like it? Did you have any disagreements? Did you have some agreements? Let me know. I would be very interested in hearing what you have to say. Anybody else that wants to chime in, feel free. Yeah, it was a good longer show than I anticipated, but a little bit sidetracked here and there. But thank you guys for your patience, and thank you guys for for showing up and tuning in, and I greatly appreciate it. I know that you're all loved, definitely. And I let me know if this last video is something you'd be interested in, something more on that line, or if there's a topic that you would like to talk about. Feel free to leave it down low in the chat, or that would be whatever you guys would like to talk about. Let me know, because this is more so for you guys than it is for me. Be quite honest with you. I just enjoy sharing information with you guys and talking about things you guys like to talk about. And if I have any videos I can show that help your understanding, that brings me great joy. So leave your comments below, leave them in the chat, leave them after, however you want to do it. I thank you for tuning in again. I pray and hope you all have a wonderful, blessed evening, morning, wherever you are. And I pray that the Lord's mercy reigns upon you, and his love and kindness. And, I pray for each and every one of you to continue to keep striving. And, till the next time, Lord willing, I will see you guys later. This is Brother Dunbar signing off with Exposing the Works of Darkness with Brother Dunbar. Till the next time, God bless you all. Peace be.